you don't have to go beyond what I give you in the handouts now and what you have to do in step number 5, which is going to be QEP+. So, ये diagram, it is basically telling you that, humans are basically not separate from the apes. On the left side that you can see, you can see your Strepsirhini. And this represents an earlier sort of a branch, or we can call it as the pre-monkey stage kind of a branch. On this side, which is to your right, you can see Haplorhini. If the entire sort of grouping is based on the nose, Strepsirhini is wet nose, and then you have the, the dry nose, right? So these guys basically have reduced sense of smell. Golden lion tamarin, they tend to be very rarely found. It is in certain pockets of your Brazil that you will find them, and they are, I want to say, they are critically endangered. Even if you are very, very good at memorizing, chodo memorizing, use it for other sort of subjects. If I can ask you this particular question, can you tell me what is hominin, hominid, hominoid here, right? So we had a last common ancestor, let's say approximately 7 million years ago, right? And anybody, our ancestors in this particular line, of our lineage, they tend to be the hominins. Chimpanzee is your closest living relative of the humans, chimps and bonobos. The aggressive ones are able to sort of live for longer. The aggressive ones are able to live long enough to reach adulthood and then reproduce. We have the ability to have this opposability. Both humans and apes have this ability that they can grasp and manipulate these kind of objects. They can use tools because they can hold it. In fact, we have one extra grip, which is like we can hold like a pencil and then use. Every part of your syllabus is going to be covered in such a comprehensive sort of manner. Your competitors basically go and add so many things and work, and struggle and things like this. You should not be doing that, because I'm saying this again and again. So the next topic is going to be major living primates, right? So living primates ka matlab kya hai? See, major essentially means that we are going to talk about the major ones, right? Lemurs, lorises, tarsiers, right? Your New World monkeys, Old World monkeys. If you look at just the New World monkeys, there will be thousands of them. Not thousands, but you will have so many different types, right? But we are looking at the major ones. And similarly, within your lemurs, there are so many types of lemurs. I think I've already mentioned, the pygmy lemur is one. Right, the ring-tailed sort of lemur is another one. Indri lemur, I just told you today, vertical finged leaping Shafaka lemur. So you understand it, but we are looking at the major ones. Okay, and that is that. Living ka matlab kya hai? They still exist as of today. That means they are living primates, right? They're not extinct group of primates. I used to tell you, right? So the early sort of primates, ancestors 60-something million years ago, they used to look partially, according to me, partially like a squirrel, partially like a mongoose, partially, it's something like this, right? So us type ka ek visual hai. We're not talking about those. We are talking about the ones that still are alive today. Start with this flowchart. Everybody just thoda sa, generally I will tell you ki aapko kab yahan pe dekhna hai. So here I'm going to tell you, please look at this particular flowchart, right? At the top, can you see we have the order primates? Can you see that here? You have the order primates. Okay, and this is that entire, we generally call it as a group or a family, but actually the technical term here is, it is primate order. Okay, the primate order. Okay, now everybody thoda sa pay attention karo, just be with me. And as I'm telling you, please pay attention to what I'm talking about. The primate order, can you see that it is splitting into two big branches? Primate order, can you see that it is splitting into two big branches? We call the two branches as two suborders. Two large divisions within the order primate. Did you notice this? Please, you have to keep telling me. So try to be involved. Under the order, you are seeing two suborders. What are those two suborders? If you see here, you might be able to see something called as Strepsirhini, and you see something called as Haplorhini. Right? Strepsirhini, okay, and Haplorhini. How do you pronounce this? Pronounce it exactly like how it is spelled, so that because aapka written test hai. Okay, Strepsirhine is kind of spelling, the pronunciation, but Strepsirhini, and Haplorhini. So you can think of this like almost like a family tree. There is one grandpa, of primate order. Unke do suborders hai. And those are going to be your, Strepsirhini, and it is going to be Haplorhini. Is this clear? So far, so good? Okay, one big common ancestor, right? Shared origin of this kind of species. And this is 65 million years ago. And then there is two major sort of evolutionary paths that they are moving into. What are those? It is Strepsirhini. Strepsirhini, if you remember the old picture that I had shown you the other day, lemurs, lorises, tarsiers, New World monkeys, Old World monkeys, your lesser ape, great apes, humans within this. Okay, so this end of the scale is going to be your primitive traits, means it is like your older kind of features, and this end may we call it as advanced features, newer sort of features, human-like features. Okay, so Strepsirhini यहाँ पे, and यहाँ पे you have your Haplorhini. So this is good. So generally understand, ठीक है, मतलब basic biology जब आप सीखोगे, right? So you will see that you have it's basically about classification. As you kind of move downward, you are becoming more and more sort of specific. As you go up, you have a much larger, more sort of inclusive grouping. Okay, remember the hierarchy. Okay, it'll be order, then you'll have suborder, then you'll have infraorder, then you have perorder, then you have superfamily, then you have family, right, and so on and so forth. Okay, मतलब literally you will have कि मतलब genus and species तक आप आओगे. Is that clear? The left branch is your Strepsirhini. Okay, under Strepsirhini, can you see Lemuriformis and then Lorisiformis? Are you able to see this? Under your Strepsirhini, are you able to see Lemuriformis and Lorisiformis? Okay, and then if you move further down, you can see the family level में Lemuridae, Galagidae, Lorisidae, right? You will be able to see this. And finally, you have the examples, which is my lemurs. Then I have my Galagos. Okay, I have my Loris. Okay, you understand this, right? So this entire left side essentially represents what? It represents primitive primate adaptive radiation. And generally, they are found in your Africa and Madagascar and the rest of Africa. Is this clear? Now let me ask you a really quick quiz, okay? Before I move a little further. No, I'll just come to it. Okay. Right side of the branch, what do you see here? The right side of the branch, you will actually be able to see the Haplorhini group. Okay, Haplorhini mein, are you able to see Tarsiformis? Okay, can you see Tarsiformis? Okay, are you able to see? Here you see the tarsiers who stand alone here. Okay, they're kind of considered to be a transitional sort of a group. So when you basically move from this end to this end, okay, you have monkeys and different types of apes, and you have the tarsiers. Yahan pe what do you have? Lemurs, loris, right? So that kind of thing. Okay, so tarsiers in this family of your Tarsiformis. Okay, within this you have a major group. Okay, Simiformis or Anthropoidea. Okay, can you see Simiformis and / Anthropoidea? Okay, this is essentially the group that contains or consists of your monkeys and the ape ka primate adaptive radiation. Is this clear? Is this clear? Okay, let me just again within the Haplorhini. I'll just summarize this once again. Within the Haplorhini, so as I come from the top, which is more inclusive, big sort of a grouping, to more sort of specific sort of grouping. So within Haplorhini, on my right, what do we see? We basically see Tarsiformis. Tarsiformis may we are going to have just the tarsiers, right? It's kind of like a transition between the primitive sort of traits wale primates to your your monkeys and apes wale family. Okay, that is one. Okay, so you had Pella wala was your Tarsiformis, and then you're going to have your Simiformis or Anthropoidea. Right, Simiformis or Anthropoidea. If you can take a look at this particular picture, what do we have? Okay, in this, what do you generally see? Right, it contains the monkeys. Okay, old new world monkeys, old world monkeys. Take a new world monkeys, old world monkeys. Apart from that, you'll also see the ape ka radiation. Okay, all different types. The lesser ape, which is your gibbons and siamangs. Then you have your orangutans and gorillas and chimpanzees and bonobos, and the most famous ape. Okay, the most populous ape. Okay, that is humans. Is this clear? So far, so good. Okay, good. Okay, so far so good. Glad. Okay, so you've understood this. Strepsirhini, Haplorhini, Lemuriformis, Lorisiformis. These are the species. Okay. Now come to your Simiformis, okay, / Anthropoidea. So inside your Anthropoidea, what do you see here? There is another split that is taking place. An Anthropoidea grouping may, you will see that there are two different subgroups. One is going to be your Platyrrhini and the other is going to be your Catarrhini. Okay, so can you see this here? To your right, to my left. Okay, can you see two different sort of subgroupings? Platyrrhini and Catarrhini. Okay, Platyrrhini essentially means ki it is New World monkeys. Okay, Platyrrhini essentially means it is New World monkeys. Catarrhini essentially means it is your Old World monkeys, and your apes. Okay, so Catarrhini includes what? Your Old World monkeys and apes, and Platyrrhini is essentially your New World monkeys. Okay, so this is that classification, that classic classification that we talked about in the previous session, which is that you have New World monkeys and you have Old World monkeys. Okay, and that is that. Is this clear? So far so good, understood? I'll summarize this once again. Okay, so within this monkey level sort of distinction within your Anthropoidea, there is a split that you can see. You can see Platyrrhini and then you can see Catarrhini. Platyrrhini, if you remember the difference that I had said about New World monkeys and the Old World monkeys, right? You know, the New World monkeys tend to have flatter sort of a nose, okay, and their nostrils basically open up sideways. Old World monkeys, what did we say? Their nostrils basically open downwards, okay, and it is slightly narrower. Okay, so Platyrrhini, Flatyrrhini, okay, Platyrrhini, flat-nosed ones. Who are the flat-nosed ones? It is going to be your New World monkeys. Catarrhini includes basically two different groups. एक है आपका Old World monkeys and it also includes your apes and thereon. Is this clear? Okay. So if I'm asking you, can you tell me some technical terms? May New World monkey versus Old World monkey ka distinction? Can you tell me? Immediately your mind should basically go to Flatyrrhini, okay, and your Catarrhini. Okay, is this clear? Will you be able to remember this? Okay, so that is that. So ये हो गया आपका that level में. Now within this ape level, so meaning within your मतलब वो Catarrhini में, right? If you see, there are two subgroups here. Okay, find it. Within Catarrhini, you have two subgroups here. Can you see it and then tell me what are the two subgroups? Catarrhini में you see two subgroups. एक है Cercopithecoidea. Are you able to see this? Cercopithecoidea. Cercopithecoidea and Hominoidea. Can you see this? Cercopithecoidea is going to be your Old World monkeys. Cercopithecoidea is going to be your Old World monkeys. Give me one example of Old World monkeys. Already you guys know this. Okay? And then Cercopithecoidea and Hominoidea. Hominoidea essentially means your ape group. Is this clear? Hominoidea essentially means your ape group. Please tell me till here you understood. So I'll summarize this once again, right? So what I'm saying is, in that ape level में अगर आप देखोगे, or we'll start from the monkey level. ठीक है? Monkey level में what did we see? Inside that Anthropoidea group में you see another sort of a split, and that split is going to be your Platyrrhini and Catarrhini. Platyrrhini, flat nose, that means New World monkeys. Catarrhini essentially means your Old World monkeys and your apes. ठीक है? So you're able to sort of link it, New World, Old World वाला. Now, if you take, okay, the Catarrhini के अंदर you have another split, which is your Cercopithecoidea, which is your Old World monkeys, and you have your Hominoidea, which is your apes. So far, so good? Please confirm. Till now you understood? Next is Hominoidea. We'll go into that. उसके अंदर also can you see two apes तक हम पहुंच चुके हैं. So Hominoidea is the next. ठीक है? You have two different groupings. Now, even without this, you will be able to tell that within the ape family, there were two different sort of groupings. ठीक है? उसके अंदर we, मतलब if you remember this thing, right? So you have great apes, ठीक है? And then you have lesser apes. Lesser ape is your siamangs and your gibbons. ठीक है? So what will the breakup be? Hylobatidae. Hylobatidae essentially is your lesser ape, which essentially means कि gibbons and siamangs. ठीक है? Can you see here? Hominoidea के अंदर you see Hylobatidae, which is your lesser ape, gibbons and siamangs. ठीक है? Then Hylobatidae, then you have Hominidae. Hominidae essentially means your great apes. ठीक है? Great apes. Can you tell me what are the 4 different types of great apes or 4-5 different types of great apes? Okay, you have inside your Hominidae, you're going to have your orangutan. ठीक है? Which is Pongo group. Okay, then you have gorilla group. Okay, then you have chimpanzee and your bonobo, which is basically your pan group. Chimpanzee is basically pan troglodyte. Okay, and then bonobo is basically your paniscus. इतना आपको नहीं चाहिए, but I'm just telling you. Okay, and then you have another sort of an ape. Okay, that is going to be your human ape. Okay, your human ape. I'll just give you a funny example. मेरे school में, like in case my sister used to be like, she used to be very disciplined, good girl. Okay, and she would look at the other sort of students, and then well, she was very gifted with English. Okay, and if she sees somebody else, she's like head girl kind. Okay, उस type के. उस समय. And then if she sees anybody in some other classes who are basically like standing outside, she'd be like a bunch of juvenile delinquents. ठीक है? Or sometimes I remember her calling people as in fact, okay, her and her group, right? If anybody is being a little boorish or uncouth, she'll be like pan troglodyte. Now I don't know if she actually knew whether it is a chimpanzee. I don't even know if she knows it right now. But that essentially meant what? Hamare school mein this used to be like, things that people would call if you're found like climbing a tree or, a little less civilized. You get the picture, right? Pan troglodyte ka matlab kya hai? It is literally being called as a chimpanzee, but in, a scientific sort of a, genus and species ka term. Is this kind of clear? So that is pan troglodytes, right? Chimpanzee, bonobo. Okay, so is that kind of clear? So just remember it like this, right? So you might have some kind of story that will help you remember. But the point here is that you have orangutan, which is the pongo, you have the gorilla, which is gorilla. Okay, chimpanzee and bonobo belong to this pan group, pan troglodyte and pan peniscus. Okay, and then you have humans, which is Homo sapiens. Okay, is this clear? So ये diagram, no, it is basically telling you that humans are basically not separate from the apes. Okay, humans and the pan troglodytes are very, very close. Homo sapiens and the pan troglodytes are literally 98.8 similarity तो है कि नहीं? And I can say this based on this classification. If I have to say that humans and apes are very, very similar, okay, I'm basically going to have to sort of argue that by saying that what? Because we are all classified under this hominidae. Okay, under this hominidae, we are basically all within the same. Is this kind of clear? This is extremely important conception. Is this clear? I don't want you to take every one of these things and then randomly try to mug it up. Okay, think of this in a very, what should I say, in a very logical, right? The most inclusive big grouping, and each of those grouping you will have different sort of like, splits that are taking place. Ye wala group and ye wala group. And iska, ye wala group and ye wala group. And there is always logic to it. Is this clear? Understood? All of you, can you please confirm that you understood? I'll just do a quick sort of recap of this entire thing. Okay, so on top, we essentially have, we are starting with what? We are starting with primate order. Okay, if you had any sort of a doubt, okay, I'm going to go through all of this and then I'm going to just recap this once. Okay, aapka pura classification, you should be that person who never has to mug it up. Okay, just think very, very logically and then come through. Okay, if you see, there is a complete sort of a classification tree here of, this order of primates. Okay, at the very top, what do you see here? We have order primates. And as you keep moving downwards further and further, you're becoming more and more sort of specific. Okay, so essentially we're going to come from order, suborder, infraorder, perorder, you can go superfamily, family, all these kind of things all the way to your genus and your species. Is this clear? So the first split that you can see here is at the order level, it becomes, two suborders. What are the two sort of suborders? You can see that the primates are splitting into your Strepsirhini and then into Haplorhini. What do you have? You see Strepsirhini to your left, my right, okay, and Haplorhini to my left or your right. Okay, this is the biggest, most important sort of evolutionary division. Okay, this was actually asked this year. Okay, Strepsirhini ke bare mein bataiye, right? But in a different way. On the left side that you can see, you can see your Strepsirhini. And this represents an earlier sort of a branch, or we can call it as the pre-monkey stage kind of a branch. On this side, which is to your right, okay, you can see Haplorhini, and this represents more advanced sort of a branch. Just remember this thing, right? Monkeys, apes, and humans, and wherever humans are there, and it's our language, so we have necessarily called ourselves the more advanced sort of branch, but you understood this, right? So this side you will see your Strepsirhini. Strepsirhini mein you still have two more sorts, like it basically splits into two, Lemuriformes and then you have Lorisiformes, right? So if you go down little family level mein, then you can see ki Lemuridae, Galagidae, Lorisidae, right? And then literally if you look at the examples, it is lemurs and Galagos and Lorisus, right? So aapka ye pura ye left side jo hai, you can see this primate radiation for the primitive group. Okay, and where are they actually found? They're mostly found in Madagascar and portions of Africa. Is side agar aap paoge, Haplorhini. Okay, this is your right side. Okay, can you see Tarsiformes? Tarsiformes. Okay, so Tarsiformes ke andar you have only one particular group, that is a Tarsius, and it is kind of a transitional group, as we said. Okay, and previously Tarsiers used to be on this particular side, but now they have been moved to this one with better sort of understanding, especially molecular sort of evidence वगैरह आने के बाद. ठीक है, now within this, right, you can see there are two. So you have Tarsiformes on this side, ठीक है, and the other grouping is your Simiformes or Anthropoidia. ठीक है, which essentially means what? We are talking about your monkey and ape का that radiation, primate radiation. Is that clear? Now, अगर मैं monkey level में देखूंगा, what do I basically see here, right? So inside your Simiformes or your Anthropoidia, ठीक है, there is a important split, वो है आपका Flatterini, New World monkeys. Then you have the other group, which is your Catarrhini essentially means everybody else, so that means your Old World monkeys and the rest of your ape ka family. ठीक है, that is that. And within that ape में, what do you see here? So under Catarrhini अगर आप देखोगे, right, you have two different, like two important splits again. एक है Cercopithecoidea and Hominoidea. Cercopithecus is basically what? Old world monkeys. So next time you basically see somebody, sorry, not somebody, some sort of a monkey here in India, what do you call it? Unless it's in the zoo. If it's in the zoo, then आपको देखना पड़ेगा कि if it's a tamarin or a marmoset, right? So it can't be. But endemic species, like मतलब you find them in Indian sort of jungles, then you basically call it not old world monkey, not rhesus macaques. ठीक है, rhesus macaque भी आप calls कर सकते हो, but you should also use the term Cercopithecus. You get it right, ठीक है, and that is that. And then, so you have Cercopithecus, and then you have Hominoids. Hominoids essentially means your apes. Okay, so under Hominoids, what do you have? You have two different sort of groups. What did I say? Hominoids essentially means your ape ka family. Within apes, what do you have? Lesser ape honge, great ape honge. Lesser ape kya hai? Hylobatidae. Okay, Hylobatidae essentially means your lesser ape, it is your gibbons and siamangs. Okay, then you have your hominidae. So hominoidea ke under what are the groups? Okay, you basically see this, right? Hominidea ke andar you have your Hylobatidae, lesser ape, gibbons and all of that. Then you have your hominidae, which essentially means the great apes. Okay, so I might ask you this quiz for the next session. If I say great apes, tell me the technical term that is appropriate here, then what will you say? Hominidae. Okay, hominidae. Now under this hominidae, you again can see, which is basically your ape family, right? So ape family mein what do you see? The great ape wala family mein what do you see here? You have orangutan, which is your pongo family. Your gorilla mein gorilla family. Okay, you have your chimpanzee and bonobo. Take a pan family, and then you have your humans, which are your homo group. Is this clear? So essentially, you have to understand that humans are also part of this. Again, humans are basically classified under your hominidae. Is this clear? LM says, yes, sir, understood. Even while preparing for NEET, we used to talk using scientific names to remember them better. Okay, we're all the same. Okay, I guess that's how we do it. But actually, it works. Okay, I always say this even for other subject. Now, yeah. So let me come back here. I don't want you to memorize much. I want you to think of these in these kind of stories. जहाँ पे you're switching from your short term. See, if you have gotten 4 questions right today, that means कि आपके mind में ना you basically have something that is short term memory में है because visual memory है. You remember those videos. But let's say if I go back 6 months from today, or let's say कि 20 months from today, you will not remember it. I'm not saying 20 months लगेगा आपको, but I'm just saying you will not remember. But one female, going and serving tamarind rice for multiple males, ye aap yaad rakhoge. So these kind of things will help you keep it for a longer sort of a duration. It requires less amount of revision for you. So the way I teach you, try to keep this in mind. Is this clear? Now I want you to answer me a question. Okay, I had given this question in QEP, मतलब हमारे test series में hominin, hominid and hominoid. Okay, and टेस्ट सीरीज में तो आपको पता है, राइट? इट इज फाउंडेशन के स्टूडेंट्स होंगे, नॉन फाउंडेशन के स्टूडेंट्स भी होंगे. व्हेन आई लुक एट द अदर के पेपर्स, most of them basically leave this particular question. Okay, or if they have attempted this particular question, they have used some sort of मतलब उनको पता नहीं चल रहा है कि मतलब what exactly is required. They are like इसके मतलब 20 different sort of features. ठीक है, इसके इतने सारे features, which is very very difficult to sort of remember, and this one इतने सारे features, and now give me the marks. They want you to basically be conceptually clear, not to be a great rote learner. ठीक है? Hominin, hominid, hominoid. I'm going to teach you today hominin, hominid, hominoid. ठीक है? And you should never forget this. ठीक है? Fatafat do one thing. Give me the primate adaptive radiation chart. Fill this out, please. Start from here and go all the way till humans. Fill this out, please. From here till here, in the same sort of order. I'll give you 30 seconds. And I'll just be back while you fill this. Now, how many of you got this right? So you should have gotten greater than or equal to 3. Tell me how many of you, and the order is important. Okay, tell me how many of you got this right. Okay, now I need different sort of colors. Let me see if I have colors. Yes, I do have colors. So my question is, okay, what is hominin? What is hominid? And what is hominoid? Okay, I do not want you to misunderstand these terms and use the right sort of terms, okay, at all times. If I'm actually drawing this on piece of paper, I have to present it. I'll draw it neat. I'll try to make it all straight lines or circular. But I'm just telling you this so that it is for your understanding. Purple. Okay, I went with pink. Most of you said pink. Now, what am I saying here? See, if I, what is red? Red is hominins. Remind me to, at the end of the class, tell me to save this, okay? Because each time it is difficult for me to draw it. Can you see the term hominin? Hominin essentially means it is the human lineage after the split from the last common ancestor that we share with the chimps and the bonobos. यहाँ पे chimp slash bonobo होंगे, ठीक है? Chimp slash bonobo होंगे. Can you see hominid or hominidae? Hominid is basically short form for hominidae. Hominidae essentially means we are talking about the great apes. Can you see this here? The great apes, you have the great human ape, the humans, then you have your chimps and bonobos, then you have your gorilla, you have your orangutans. Is that clear? Hominidae or hominid essentially means we are talking about the great apes. And hominoidea equals what? It means it is your great apes plus your gibbons and siamangs, which is plus your lesser apes. Is this clear? Now understand this, right? Conceptual clarity अगर आपका नहीं है and आप कुछ भी लिख रहे हो, ठीक है, it is extremely, मतलब it is very very difficult to sort of still score. You can impress them by just your conceptual clarity rather than by writing 20 points for this, 20 points for this, 20 points for this. मतलब जो rote learning आप करोगे, मतलब पूरा time रटोगे, ठीक है? It doesn't help your case. But if you can just essentially show कि if I ask you a question, hominins, all you got to tell me from here to here, and then एक दो example भी लिखोगे ना, they know कि मतलब आपका conceptual clarity है there. The terms are basically clear to you. ठीक है? This is very important. At a master's level अगर आप देखोगे, you are expected to use these terms precisely. If you mix up, your hominid and hominin and hominoid, it basically signals to me that there is conceptual weakness. ठीक है, रट के आए हो, but वो clarity in terms of this thinking and in terms of this evolutionary sort of branching, आपका वो clarity नहीं है. ठीक है, so taxonomy also, a very simple thing which many people sort of like cram and mug up, and many of you, I'm seeing your messages कि मतलब आपने, you already have studied anthro by yourself, but you never had this kind of clarity. There are many of you who have basically attended 2 coachings before this and you still don't have this clarity. यहाँ पे it is more about conceptual clarity. That's why I'm telling you, first thing that I want you to take away from here is basically this conceptual clarity. Even this taxonomy अगर आप देखोगे, this is about understanding, not just labeling things. ठीक है, it is about understanding what kind of branches and then labeling them appropriately. Is this kind of clear? Everybody understood this? Please confirm that you understood this. Hominin, hominid, hominoid, you'll never make a mistake. If you give me a confirmation, that'll be great before I can move on. try to be a little more expressive and give me a confirmation, okay, so that I understand. Okay, if sometimes if I'm going fast, you should tell me, okay. And generally you will understand this. I don't go fast. ठीक है, मुझे पता है कि कहाँ पे कितना time spend करना है, right? But still you tell me, so I know that you're following. Okay, and then that way I'm connecting with you. In my mind, it's like so and so here, so and so here, so and so here, so and so sitting here. I can visualize these names. Okay. If I go back here, okay. Now please help me find hominoid. Okay, help me find hominid. Hominid तो लिखा नहीं है यहाँ पे, but I will tell you where exactly it is. Please point out. Okay, आप अपने आंखों के लिए point out. Okay, can you see this hominoidea here? What is hominoidea here? Right, वहाँ पे what did we talk about? We basically said that it is essentially, it is your great apes plus your lesser ape. ठीक है, can you see this here? Can I write on this? ठीक है, ये वाला था. Then I also basically mentioned hominid or hominidae, which essentially meant कि it is all great apes. Can you see hominidae, all great apes? Are you able to follow it? ठीक है, and then I also said कि there is hominin. Hominin essentially is this particular guys. ठीक है. The reason I gave that question hominin, hominid, hominoid in that as a 10 marker in the test series is just to find out. It's a question number 1A था वो. ठीक है, just to understand कि who knows and who doesn't. So initially itself I get this idea कि मतलब who has रट के लिख रहे हैं, and मतलब and you see it. The rest of the paper also it becomes very very evident. ठीक है, and it also tells me who's from my batch. ठीक है, so हमारे batch के students generally will not have this issue. Okay, understand this, right? So remember this. Strepsirhini. Okay, let's stick with this. Strepsirhini का मतलब क्या है? Primitive traits, older kind of features. And these kind of features are some things that they share with the other mammals as well. But the further you go this side, Haplorhini, advanced or traits means newer kind of features, like humans wala. Is this clear? అర్థమైందా? గొత్తాయితా? మనసిలాయో? Okay. పురించుడతా. Right? So primitive primates. Okay. Okay. Primitive. Why did I say? Because Strepsirhini. First branch जो आपको दिख रहा है यहाँ पे, जो आपने देखा था, that was your Strepsirhini. Right? Strepsirhini का मतलब क्या है? Strepsirhini का मतलब है कि like wrinkled nose or curved nose या twisted sort of a nose. ठीक है? Rhini जो है, okay, Rhini जो है, it means nose, and strepto essentially means curved या twisted or wrinkled. Is this clear? Wrinkle का मतलब ये है, see, for example, it's a functional feature. They are essentially the Strepsirhini and this Haplorhini जो वो divide कर रहे हैं, they are doing it based on the kind of nose. Or the terminology basically is about the nose. Okay, वहाँ पे they still have that a wet sort of nose or a wet sort of rhinarium, presence of a rhinarium, which essentially means that, see, as I told you in previous session, if you have a dog as a pet, if you go and touch the dog ka nose, right? Okay, regardless of what time of the day, it'll still be kind of moist. Okay? And why is it kind of moist, right? The ones, so basically they're called wet-nosed primates because they have a moist kind of a rhinarium. Dog basically has this moist, generally in those kind of species that have a very, मतलब उनका जो smell center है brain में, and their entire sort of apparatus has much, they have much better ability to sort of smell. Okay? They tend to have moist kind of a nose. Understand this, right? So they depend heavily on smell, olfaction जो हम बोलते हैं, olfaction, O-L-F-A-C-T-I-O-N. Is this clear? Okay, so that is that. So Strepsirhini, I basically said what? It actually means कि it is smell dominant. Haplorhini essentially means what? Okay, it is vision dominant. Okay, on this side of the end, basically what do I have? Strepsirhini, it is, it is smell dominant. This side में I have your Haplorhini. Okay, we don't have that ability to smell so much. Okay, think of it, right? So many other species can smell a lot better than we can, right? Okay, we don't use humans for bomb detection, correct? Okay, we can't. But the further down this side you go, they have better, okay, ability. Now, if I basically say features of Strepsirhini, apart from the nose wala feature, right? Generally, and take a look at the pictures whenever I show them, they have large ears, okay, and they have a sharp sense of hearing as well. Okay, large ears are basically functional as in they have better ability to sort of hear, right? Generally, these kind of species tend to be mostly nocturnal. Nocturnal का मतलब है कि they tend to be active at night. Although lemur is not nocturnal because lemurs are in their own sort of island, उनका कोई predation नहीं है. But this guy that you see here is a loris. ठीक है, they tend to be nocturnal at night. ठीक है. They also have a special layer in the eye. It is called as tapetum lucidum, ठीक है, which essentially is a light reflecting sort of a layer. I'll give you a small example. If you have a cat, ठीक है, and let's say it's dark, switch off the light. Okay, what you see is that the cat का eyes will be so visible greenish, और मतलब उनका eye का tinge आप देख पाओगे. Why is that? They have this much stronger sort of tapetum lucidum, which is that light reflective sort of layer is a lot stronger for them. So essentially that means that they can see a lot better. Why, if I ask you this particular question, why would that cat or these kind of Strepsirhinis, why would these night animals need this kind of a layer? To see better in darkness. ठीक है, by reflecting light inside the eye, they're able to see a lot better than we can. ठीक है, if we switch off lights and if it is very dark, what do? यही तो करते हैं, right? We cannot see anything, right? But your cat is going to be like, क्या कर रहा है ये? Okay, but you understand this, right? So they have better visual because they are nocturnal, right? And they also see, if you see this, right, they have a longer sort of a snout. If I basically stand like this and you can see me like this, right? If I keep my head like this, you can see almost like a straightish kind of line. Okay, there's not much. Okay, in fact, even our chin is going to be a little more sort of pronounced. So we have it like this. But if it is this guy and he's standing here like this, right, you will see that the snout is more. ठीक है, they have a longer sort of snout. इसको हम snout कहते हैं. ठीक है, so it basically sort of extended nose sort of region, the mouth sort of a region. ठीक है, and one more thing, if I basically go and touch this guy, tap this guy, right there, my hand is going to be wet. ठीक है, at least it is going to be moist because this guy has a wet nose, right? You should not misunderstand that कि अरे यार, this guy is having cold. नहीं, ठीक है, he does not have a runny nose. ठीक है, he just has a much better sense of olfaction, ability to smell. That means they are dependent heavily on their ability to smell, olfaction. Food वैसे उनको आता है. So Strepsirhini उस side में, what did we say? It is smell dominant and vision dominant because they're nocturnal generally. And Haplorhini उस side में अगर आप देखोगे, they are more vision dominant, right? We are like monkeys and apes, right? So trees and all of that, right? So we have to have the ability to sort of like jump from one branch to another, and even 1 inch का अगर गलती हो गया तो मतलब literally you're going to fall from the canopy down. Okay, we fall. Orangutans are known to have a lot of these fractures and things like this. ठीक है, because canopy. Okay, and that is that. They also have something called as a tooth comb. Tooth comb essentially means कि उनका front का जो teeth वगैरह आप देखोगे, if I basically just open this guy and then see, it tends to be like very tiny ऐसे होते हैं. It'll be something like this. Okay, it's like a comb wala this thing, and then you will see those canines, okay, on the sides. Literally, it'll be like this. A tooth comb essentially means it is like their incisors jo hai, it is kind of forward pointing. It's like a comb. It's thin, and it is tightly packed to each other, and it essentially looks like a small little comb that is here between the two canines. This is clear. Generally, it is found in Strepsirhinis, okay, such as your lemurs and your lorises. Because uska function kya hai? They also use it for cleaning their fur. ऐसे वो करेंगे because you have to sort of remove the dirt. ठीक है, you have to remove the parasites, you have to मतलब loose hair को remove करना. ठीक है, and sometimes they also use it for scraping things from the tree or gum and things like this. Is this clear? So almost like a hair comb that is built into their generally the lower sort of a jaw. Is this kind of clear? Okay, then that is that. ठीक है, so far so good, right? They use it to clean. Okay, then they also have something called as a grooming claw. In the primates ka definition, if you had seen, right? So we basically said that generally they tend to have nails. Okay, they tend to have nails and not the claws. Now you know the difference, right? Okay. The difference between nails and claws, right? So if you must have seen the claws on your cats, okay, if you have seen claws on dogs, right? So they don't look like ours, right? So I had basically shown you in the previous sort of pictures mein, like it looks like this, like ours. These are nails, but not all of them. That's why we call them as primitive. So some of these guys basically have something called as grooming claws, right? Which is essentially used for grooming and things like this, or cleaning the fur. Okay, so what exactly happens here? What tends to happen is that when you take a look at their claws, and I'll tell you this, right? So it depends on the kind of digits that they have, right? So we tend to have these 5 digits. Think of this as digit 1. Okay, think of this as digit 1. This is digit 2. This is digit 3. This is digit 4. This is digit 5. Is this kind of clear? Right? So what tends to happen is, on their lower, okay, on their lower, meaning their lower sort of a limb, okay, and you take a look at their their entire sort of digits, you will see that some of them are basically nails and some of them are also claws. Now it really depends, okay, on which one, right? So generally it will be 2 and 3 for some. Okay, in some it might be some, so what difference होते हैं. So as you go on this particular end, what do you see? You end up seeing a lot more of these grooming claws that are still present. Okay, is this clear? They tend to be like this. So what is this? This is digit 1, this is digit 2, this is digit 3, this is digit 4, digit 5. Okay, you see this, right? Digit 1, and this is your digit 5, little finger. Is this clear? Same thing, right? So digit 1, this is my big toe and this is my little toe. ठीक है, tarsiers में अगर आप देखोगे या lemurs में अगर आप देखोगे, what do you see in lemurs, right? So lemurs में अगर आप देखोगे, okay, you tend to see that they tend to have some which are also having claws and not necessarily nails. Is that clear? Okay. So we are again in primitive primates, right? Okay, so these are the kind of features that they tend to have. Second digit in their lower leg, lower limb. Okay, and they tend to have your one grooming claw they will have. Okay, so digit 2 of the foot, of the second toe that they have, right? So if this is my big toe, okay, big toe jo hai, of course you can't see my feet here, right? This is my big toe, this one. Okay, that tends to be, claws. The rest of it tends to be nails. Similarly, you have the loris. So this is basically lemurs, and then again, even in loris, you have the same thing, right? So loris also, again, if you take a look at their lower toes, you'll basically see that the digit 2 of the foot essentially has that grooming sort of claw. The rest of them tend to be nails. Is this clear? Okay, what else did we not clear? Okay, so eyes के बारे में बात कर लिया. Eye का socket. Okay. So they tend to have eye socket, okay, which is essentially sort of, covered in proper bony enclosure. But here it might not be 100% sort of closed in, right? Like you will have on this particular end, right? So, as you go into this particular side, they will have partial sort of enclosure, right? Not full sort of enclosure. Is that clear? Okay. Many of them also have multiple sort of nipples, right? That means कि मतलब हमारे human beings में अगर आप देखोगे, which is the ape on this particular side, we have multiple nipples, नहीं, right? We have only 2 nipples, but here they tend to have more than 2 nipples. Now, why would that be? What could be a reasoning here? The reasoning will be that they often give birth to twins or multiple sort of offspring. ठीक है, so multiple sort of offspring जिन में हैं, like again dogs में अगर आप देखोगे, they tend to have multiple sort of nipples. The reason why they have is that they have to feed and nurse multiple offspring. The same thing goes here as well. So that is very different from the monkeys onwards to the apes वाला family. वहाँ से you generally tend to see that it is generally one offspring at a time. Right? What are some great examples or common sort of examples of Strepsirhini? It is going to be your lemurs, it is going to be your lorises, it is going to be your galagos, they're also called as your bush babies, AYE, and so on. Is this clear? The geographical spread of Strepsirhini, what did I say? They mostly stay in Madagascar, okay, and some other parts of your Africa and South Asia and things like this. Okay. So this is going to be your loris. Similarly, you have this guy. Please tell me which animal is this? So dog also falls under Strepsirhini? No. See, Strepsirhini, Haplorhini essentially is the 2 groupings under your primate order. Okay, dogs don't come in under this particular order. Okay, dogs basically come under canis wala ek group. Okay. PC is the first one. Lemur, okay, good. NB is also another. Okay. Ringtail lemur. Okay, got it. Okay, so you guys remember this really well. Okay, so this is found only in Madagascar. They tend to be diurnal. Diurnal essentially means that they're active during the day. Okay, they often live in these large groups. You had seen Shipaka lemur ka example आपने देखा था. They are very strong sort of leapers, right? Okay, यहाँ पे also if you see, what did we say? It is going to have, यहाँ पे अगर आप अच्छे से देखोगे, the digit 2 of the foot is going to have, the second toe of their foot will generally have, that grooming claw. The rest of it is going to be nails. Is that clear? And this is which part? Okay, this is your Madagascar. Okay, now next thing, now you have already seen that you have gone to your primitive, you've gone to your Strepsirhini, we have basically covered it, and then we essentially move to the next topic, which is going to be your Haplorhine. Okay. Okay, it's fine. Okay, videos है but बाद में देखेंगे, ठीक है? Next is going to be your advanced primates or the Haplorhines. Hopefully you understood the Strepsirhini. Now we can go a little fast. Okay? So advanced primates are your Haplorhini. Haplorhini is basically the second branch, Strepsirhini being the first branch. Now, if you see in that picture we had seen on this side used to be the Haplorhini. Okay? So this again, वहाँ पे क्या था? We basically said कि it is about the moist nose or the curved nose or the twisted sort of a nose. This is Haplorhini, haplo plus rhini, okay, which essentially means कि simple sort of nose or dry nose. Okay, यहाँ पे what you're starting to see is that the amount of importance to smell basically comes down. Smelling center in your brain also basically comes down. The rest of the apparatus also basically is less about the smell. And these are your advanced primates, okay, or means a little more sort of later sort of evolved forms. Okay, this group includes your tarsiers, your New World monkeys, your Old World monkeys, and the pura ape ka family, including your humans. Historically, इसका classification अगर आप देखोगे, right? Initially, the primates were initially sort of classified into different kind of groupings. It used to be prosimy and anthropoidia. Prosimy used to be the primitive sort of primates, and anthropoidia used to be the monkeys and apes. Okay, but scientists later they realized something kind of important. 1918, say Reginald Pocock, he basically was able to sort of, at least he was the one who's essentially proposing that the tarsiers are closer to the monkeys and the apes rather than to the lemurs and the lorises. Okay, of course, it was a huge sort of a debate, but by the time it was 1970s and definitely the 1990s, right? These kind of phylogenetic, these family tree kind of evolution-based sort of classification, agar aap dekhoge, right? Yahan pe it has changed. Today, we recognize them as two suborders within your primates, that is your Strepsirhini and Haplorhini, not Prosimy and Anthropoidia. Prosimy and Anthropoidia essentially is older sort of terminologies. Okay? So classification initially used to be controversial because, as I said, right? So the early classification divided primates into your prosimians and anthropoids. And prosimians mein you had lemurs, lorises, and tarsiers. But tarsiers wahan pe abhi nahi hai. Kahan pe hai? They are basically here. But previously it used to be lemurs, lorises, tarsiers, and then, anthropoid group mein you have monkeys, apes, and the human ape as well. Okay? But tarsiers जो है, they essentially show a mix of features. In some features they look like these guys. In some features they basically look like these guys. Okay? Some kind of features make them look like this old prosimians, and some kind of features they made it look, they also have some commonality with the anthropoids. Is this clear? For example, that grooming clause. Why were so there is this confusion back in the day. Okay? So that's why they were placed here. If you might ask, then why were they basically sort of grouped with the lemurs and lorises? Okay, because as I said, they used to share certain sort of traits, with lemurs and lorises, and before your molecular sort of genetics and all was there, they noticed कि मतलब grooming clause जो है, ठीक है, the grooming claws are there on some of their toes, so that means कि that is closer to lemurs and lorises. ठीक है, they are beings who have less than they have more than two sort of nipples, so again lemurs and lorises. ठीक है, उनका uterus अगर आप देखोगे reproduction के लिए जो थे, that also basically is like divided into two parts, which is very similar to मतलब your lemurs and lorises वाला thing. In fact, even the locomotion अगर आप देखोगे, it is vertical, clinging and leaping. Okay? And of course some chromosomal sort of similarities. But why have we changed that and put them into this particular group of Haplorhini? Okay? Because what did we say, right? If the entire sort of grouping is based on the nose, Strepsirhini is wet nose, and then you have the the dry nose, right? So these guys basically have reduced sense of smell. Okay, they don't depend on their smell as much. There is no wet nose at all. Okay, no rhinarium. Okay, and the eyes are a little closer. Unka orbits a lot closer to what you see on this particular end, and so on and so forth. So many things essentially changed, and today we consider them to be part of this particular group. So what is it? Especially the DNA studies essentially showed us this. Okay, genetically they're a lot closer to the monkey wala family and the ape wala family than they are, okay, to the lemurs and lorises. Okay, so they share a more common ancestor with these guys, okay, than with your lemurs and lorises. Is this clear? Okay, so the current sort of classification you have to understand, that we don't use as prosimians and anthropoids. We are basically using Strepsirhini and Haplorhine, right? And so the modern sort of classification essentially means Strepsirhini you have lemurs and lorises, and Haplorhini it is tarsiers and then monkeys and apes. Is this clear? Okay. Did everybody understand this? Tarsiers are essentially that transitional group that we're talking about between Strepsirhini and Haplorhini. Okay, tarsiers are very interesting sort of creatures. Okay, previously they used to be clubbed with the primitive sort of primates because of certain kind of features. Today it is in part of this one. Okay, and that is that. Where do the tarsiers essentially live? Tarsiers live in Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, these kind of regions, okay, your Southeast Asia. And even in Indonesia, only in certain sort of pockets. Take a Thailand, certain sort of pockets. But hey, take you get the picture. Okay. And if you look at the features, right, so you will see some features, right? Lower jaw is basically in two pieces. The left and the right sides are separated by a joint at the chin. Okay, so lower jaw is in two pieces. ठीक है मतलब the mandible जो है it is this is basically called as mandible. You'll get used to these kind of things. It is unfused. ठीक है, they still have some claws. They have multiple sort of nipples. ठीक है, they have a full eye socket sort of a closure, unlike the previous one where I said it is not complete. So some advanced sort of features. It has a dry nose. It has a reduced sense of smell. Okay, and they have eyes that are so large that each eyeball is actually bigger than its brain. Okay, and they cannot, and because it's like so big, part of their eyes, okay, it's like having two watermelons in your head as eyes. Okay, it is so big that you cannot move around. So in case you have to see, right, our eyes can actually move around a little bit within your eye socket. They cannot do it, so they have to literally turn. And in fact, they can rotate their head, completely like an owl, right? Like 180 degrees. So if I have to see the board here, okay, I don't have to turn my body. Okay, for them, if I'm a tarsier, I can literally go all the way here, but unfortunately I'm not. So I can only move, let's say, 90 degrees. You get the picture, right? So this is your tarsier. So, your earlier sort of features and your newer sort of features. Okay, so these are the kind of regions that you will see them, right? Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, to some extent in Thailand as well. Okay. Then you move to the New World monkeys. Who are the New World monkeys? Yesterday we had, tell me the New World monkeys that you've already seen. Okay, tell me the name of the New World monkeys that we have seen so far. Let's see how many you can remember. Okay. So New World monkey, what did we say? Okay, Flatterini, okay, or Platterini, so meaning flat-nosed. And they are found in the Americas. New World essentially means it is Americas. Now, North America does not have endemic species. Okay, but Central America does. Central America is again equatorial kind of forest. South America, Amazon is another important sort of area, right? What are the kind of features that you see here, right? We already talked about this, right? They have their nostrils are basically like opening up sideways. Take a broader sort of noses. They have a prehensile sort of a tail. Not always, but many of them do. Maybe just a little less than 50% of the different species in Central and South America. 1/3 to one half of them basically tend to have this prehensile tail. The rest don't. Okay, and they also have 2133 generally. Okay, which is their dentition. Two incisors here, one canine here, three premolars here, and then they have your two molars here. Okay, three molars here. Is this kind of clear? So this is that. So that is okay. So old world monkeys may you will see 2123. Yahan pe you see 2133. Is that clear? Okay. The examples that we have seen are marmosets, tamarins, spider monkey. In fact, the picture that you had seen yesterday of the monkey with the long bushy sort of a tail is a spider monkey. Okay, it is a picture of the spider monkey. The video was basically of the spider monkey, right? The one with the bushy tail, and it is using that for brachiation. Okay, so that is your spider monkey. We have also seen one more capuchin. Also, we had seen. If you remember the capuchin, that was the one that was using right that anvil and the hammer. Right? What is the anvil and the hammer? Okay, so when it was trying to sort of break that palm nut, it was using that. So we have seen four, I believe. Tamarin and marmoset to aapko yaad hai, we have already seen this, right? So that is that. Spider monkeys were the one that basically sort of hang entirely by the tail. Okay. Any questions? We had also seen the differences between your old world monkeys and your new world monkeys. What were the difference between your new world monkeys and old world monkeys? Pehla wala was a geography, which essentially means that in one you had North American and your Central American. Sorry, Central America. One is basically Americas, and the other is going to be your, your old world. Old world essentially means it is your Africa, it is your Asia, it is your Europe. ठीक है. The second example that was different was the second difference was essentially about the nose, right? One basically has a broader sort of a nose opening sideways, and the other one is going to be, it has a downward facing sort of a nose. Okay, narrower sort of nose. That is the next one. It tends to have, a lot of times it also has the prehensile sort of tail, which is New World monkeys, and Old World monkeys don't have it, much thinner sort of a tail, right? And then there is also difference when it comes to the dentition, 2123 in Old World monkeys and 2133 in New World monkeys. Okay, so we have covered this New World monkeys. The next, okay, so yeah, look at the examples. Can you see these? Okay, which one is which? Marmosets, tamarins, spider monkey. Many of you did not mention the capuchins. Okay, although VK did mention, there's another one that used to use a stone to crack the nut. Can't remember the name. Okay, PC could remember 2, PB1. Tharsias look scary. Spider monkey, woolly monkey, okay, they kind of look similar, right? Marmosets, golden lion tamarin, they tend to be, well, very rarely found. It is in certain pockets of your Brazil that you will find them, and they are, I want to say, they are critically endangered. Okay, conservation ke liye it is very, very important so far. And then this guy is going to be who? Tamarin. And this is the guy that you basically saw in yesterday's that video. Okay, spider monkey. What about the Old World monkeys? Old World monkeys are basically your Catarrhini. So you had Platyrhini, and then you had Catarrhini. Catarrhini essentially means downward facing sort of nostrils. And where are they found? They're found in the Old World. That means Africa, it means Asia, it means Europe, but not all of Europe. Europe overall does not have too many sort of primates, but the Rock of Gibraltar, as we call it, okay, which essentially is your southern Europe may use generally have it. What tend to be the kind of features? They have downward facing nostrils. Whatever kind of features that we said for New World monkey was Old World monkeys, wo yaad rakh lo. Okay, so downward facing sort of nostrils, and on one particular side they will have two premolars. They had 3. Okay, so you have that. They don't have claws. Okay, they don't, they have this external sort of a tail. They have a much relatively larger sort of a body size. Common sort of examples that you see are your rhesus macaques that you talked about, the Japanese macaques that you talked about. The langur or the gray langur is something. Okay, the baboon is another one. Colobus monkey is another one, and so on. Okay, and that is that. Pictures. Okay, tell me. Colobus monkeys, actually Colobus monkey इसका एक context में बताता हूँ. The chimpanzees जो है, they tend to hunt the Colobus monkeys and they eat them. ठीक है, so that is that. Macaques तो आपको पता है, rhesus macaque is one, Japanese macaque is another one. Okay, that is another one. ठीक है, and that is that. ठीक है, anything about these two? Who's this guy on top, and who's this guy at the bottom? Guess करो. Top is macaque. नहीं. So top, what you see here is basically a baboon, a particular type of a baboon. And I think that this particular baboon is a olive baboon. Okay, but this is a baboon. Okay, baboon is another one. And this guy actually is a mandrill. Have you heard of a mandrill? Mandrill is basically the Lion King में अगर आपने देखा होगा, there was a what is that very famous thing, right? When Simba is born, right? It is the shaman of that particular society. Okay, that religious sort of specialist in that particular society takes the Simba like this and introduces to the rest of the world or something, right? You remember this, right? So I want to say the name is Rafiki or something, right? If anybody remembers, you can correct me. Okay, that is a mandrill. Okay, and that is that. So just become more sort of comfortable with these kind of pictures. Okay. Actually, in fact, one of the students actually said it, right? One is baboon, and one baboon looks like from the movie Lion King. The other is baboon. Okay, good. Okay, right. Aditya, good. Okay, LM, good. PC says, yes, sir, it is Rafiki. Okay, so the name is Rafiki. Good, baboon, top one. Okay, and that is that. Then you have whom? The apes. And apes के बारे में थोड़ा सा detail में हम पढ़ेंगे, but this is again the advanced sort of group. Okay, so apes are essentially who is it? Hominoid. Okay, hominoid, I'm saying hominoid because I'm starting with gibbon. Okay, I'm starting with gibbons and I'm going to orangutans, and then I have gorilla, and then I have chimpanzee, and then I have humans. What are the general kind of features? They don't have tail. Okay, relative larger brain relative to their body size. Okay, the eyes are basically facing forward, greater sort of intelligence. These kind of features you will see. Where are they generally present? Okay, so if I say orangutan, they tend to be in Malaysia, Indonesia, right, Southeast Asia. If I'm talking about chimpanzee, east and west of Africa. Okay, Western Africa for your gorillas. Again, there are certain pockets where you'll find them, and things like this. And what about these guys? Okay, even in Antarctica, we have them, global sort of distribution. You understand this, right? And they're kind of genetically similar also, right? Quite similar, in fact. Orangutans, right? Who are these? Chimps, bonobos. Okay, gorillas, humans. And we share a lot of similarity. Okay, we share a lot of similarity, and there's a very powerful part that you have to understand. All the primates basically evolved from a common sort of ancestor, right? So in that entire sort of picture that I had shown you, we start from 65 million years, and slowly, one branch essentially sort of starts, diverging. Okay, adaptive sort of radiation. All the primates essentially evolved from a common ancestor. All of us, starting from the most primitive, as we call it, like lemur, to the present day humans, right? Human DNA is 96% similar to the most distant primate, your lemurs. Okay? And we are 99% similar to the closest one, which is your chimps and bonobos. Is this clear? But then you might think that, but we look so different. Okay? Even a 1%, 1.2% genetic difference can actually create huge structural and even behavioral sort of differences. But overall, we have seen that we are a lot more similar than we are different. Is this clear? So what have we seen so far? We have seen, two major sort of branches, order primate, and within this you have two branches. You have Strepsirhini and you have Haplorhini. And we are actually shifting from your smell. I'm summarizing this. All of you, if you missed out on any part, okay, this is like a whole sort of summary. Just close your eyes and just listen. Okay, so we have the primate ka order. We have seen Strepsirhini, then we have Haplorhini. Okay, we are shifting from the smell-based sort of primates to vision-based primates, right? And we have evolved from, claws all the way till nails, but some of them still tend to have ek do claws. Is that clear? And it is basically in the lower leg. Okay, and that is that. Evolution, from this end to this end, agar aap dekhoge, we used to have snouts, okay, and the more sort of evolved kind of features, you will see flatter sort of face. Okay, and from here to here, agar aap dekhoge, more sort of brain size to the body size, you will see that. Okay, there is a development of a bony, like a bony eye ka socket, or it's also called as orbits. Okay, eye orbits. I'll go into the technical terms a little later. There is also change when it comes to the dentition patterns. New world monkeys, old world monkeys, we have similar to the old world sort of monkeys. Geographical spread, आपको पता है who is found where. Okay, and tell me the name of the ape that is found everywhere you go, you'll find them. Okay, and that is that. So study it through this kind of evolutionary flow. Is this clear? If you can explain this entire flow in the exam, ठीक है, मतलब they will understand कि आपका conceptual clarity इतना strong है, right? There is no subjectivity with the evaluator anymore. Anthro जो है, it's a very direct subject, especially this kind of module. Okay, you either mention these kind of evolutionary or transition clearly, okay, or you don't. You either are conceptually clear or you're not. Okay, if you mention them with clarity, you're already going to be in the top bracket. देना ही पड़ेगा आपको marks. But very few people have that level of clarity. Okay, that is the power of this particular module. That is the power of biological anthro. That is the anthro. That is why I say it is a lot more sort of predictable. Okay, the reason I want you to understand this is that घुमा फिरा के पूछेंगे, you still have clarity, and you don't have to memorize much. Is this clear? Even if you're very, very good at memorizing, छोड़ो memorizing को. Use it for other sort of subjects. Okay, here, understand. Human is the ape that we find everywhere we go, because, we are the ape that goes everywhere. PB says humans, Tisha says humans. Okay, good. AD says top was a baboon. Correct. Okay. Please confirm everybody understood. Okay, the next topic. Okay. If you take a look at this, what do you see here, right? So, which is the ape here? Actually, both of them are apes. But, this ape is a lot more sort of, upright, whereas this ape is not upright, right? Quadrupedal. And if you can see this also, you can see that there is a little bit of knuckle walking, using of the fingers, this particular end of the fingers, right? Whereas the inner portions are used a lot more for that prehensile ability, climbing of, holding things, climbing branches, right? Sensitive, these touch pads, a lot of nerve endings, so that, you get a feel for it. You get the picture, right? And skeletally speaking, they're all, there are a lot of differences, which we are going to see, right? So this is a human ape and this is a non-human ape. Is that clear? Similarly, if you see in this one, this is another sort of, again, the same thing, right? So you have the kingdom, jahan pe, if you can see this, within, you know, mammals, you have primates, right? Apart from that, also you have other ones. Okay, carnivora, insectivora, rodentia, right? So you have different of those, but we are interested here, right? So you can see this, right? So you can see hominin, hominid, hominoid, and things like that, right? Just showing you different ways of showing the same thing. Similarly, if you see this here, this is another way to sort of say the same thing, right? Chimps and bonobos and humans, right? Gorillas, orangutans, lesser ape, and so on and so forth, right? So this is a primate adaptive radiation. Some numbers are important. Always remember at least 3 numbers. Okay, and it all begins somewhere 65 million years ago. 65 million years ago essentially means that it is the late Cretaceous period. Yaad rakh lo, late Cretaceous period. Right, this is right after your the dinosaurs basically become extinct. The world changes, and the new sort of ecological niche, right? Different sort of species are going to sort of occupy it, and we have occupied it like this. Another one is this one, which is about the monkey family and the ape family. 25 million years, there is a split that is taking place, or there is adaptive radiation that is taking place. Another important sort of split is going to be this split, which is between the chimps and bonobos, the chimps ka side and the human ka side. This is approximately 7 million years, but you will see anywhere between 4 to 8 million years. All of those things are right, but generally yaad rakh lo ki 7 million years. Is this clear? 8 लिखोगे correct है, 6 लिखोगे correct है, 5 लिखोगे correct है, but 7, just go with that number 7. Is this clear? New world monkey, old world monkey. Remember these maybe for tomorrow's quiz. I might just have it. All of these things are essentially the same. Okay. Then you can see this, right? Same thing that is again shown in a different sort of way, right? So can you see this? It's again the same thing that is shown in a different sort of way, right? So what you see here, this is Homo sapiens here, chimpanzees here. So if I can ask you this particular question, can you tell me what is hominin, hominid, hominoid here? Can you show me what is hominin, hominid, and hominoid here? Fatafat. Okay, I'll give you 10 seconds to tell me, whoever can, right? And also, if you see this here, the humans, Homo sapiens and the chimpanzee ka split essentially happens somewhere here, which is around 7 million years ago. Okay, you can see this. Lemurs, lorises, galagus. Okay, then tarsier bhi hai. If you have a little more sort of elaborate one, then tarsiers will also be introduced here. Okay, but at least you can see that tarsiers are not in this line. Transition sort of a group closer to the new world, the monkeys and the ape family, than this particular family of lemurs, lorises, galagus, and so on. New world monkeys, old world monkeys, gibbons, orangutan, gorilla, chimpanzee, Homo sapiens. Okay. Hominin, hominid, hominoid. Okay. Great. Only one difference here. Hominin essentially is going to be this one. Okay, from this last common ancestor till the Homo sapiens wala. Okay, that is your hominin. So essentially, if I show you here, the hominins are going to be the groups, okay, or the members who've been part of this particular group. Is this clear? It is part of this particular group, right? So we had a last common ancestor, let's say approximately 7 million years ago, right? And anybody, our ancestors in this particular line, okay, of our lineage, okay, they tend to be the hominins. Is that clear? Again, so last common ancestor diverging into chimps and bonobos and the humans, right? So again, I'm trying to reinforce this point again and again. Kaise bhi aap dekhoge, the idea, the concept, the terms should be kind of clear to you. Okay, hominins essentially means, from the last common ancestor till your present day humans. Okay, last common ancestor with the chimps and the humans. Okay, hominid was basically what? It is your it is your great apes ke family from the common ancestors. If I basically say it is hominoid, what do we mean by this? Hominoid, yeah, essentially means it is also including your lesser ape. Okay, so be very, very clear with this. Hopefully, I will remember this also to be part of your quiz. Okay, we'll try to take a look at least 4 more of these apes in a little more sort of detail. The great apes, the lesser ape, and the great ape, and then we'll basically sort of disperse because the next topic is slightly longer, and I need a certain amount of time. Okay. I have explained hominin, hominid, hominoid. So those of you who basically gave me the answer, can you please tell me whether you are right? I explained it right. Tell me that you got it all right, and if not, also tell me. Okay. Okay. The first guy is going to be the gibbon. Can you see this guy? This is essentially the gibbon. Okay, gibbon. I'll show you a picture of the gibbon as well. Okay. This is your gibbon. Okay. This is your gibbon. Does the gibbon have a tail? No, you can't see behind him, but does the gibbon have a tail? Tell me quick. Okay. Now, while you answer that particular question, it's always fun to ask you a question. Then VK says he got it right. Okay, wonderful, VK. Gibbon is the first one, okay, from your hominoid wala group, okay, which is your gibbon, the lesser ape. Gibbons are the smallest in the ape ka family, the siamang slightly bigger. They rarely are more than 3 feet in height. 3 feet essentially means I'm guessing that it'll come till my hip or maybe till here. Okay, something like that. You get the picture, right? Okay, so they rarely are more than that. Okay, but unka body proportions are very different from ours, which we will see. उनका cranial capacity अगर आप देखोगे, it is somewhere on average between 76 to 90 cubic centimeters. Cranial capacity का मतलब है कि the brain का size measured in cubic centimeters, meaning literally आपका brain का volume कितना है, 76 to 90 cc. ठीक है? Just to give you as a comparison to humans, humans basically have 1350 on average. Now, doesn't mean that, I have 1350, you have 1350. You might have 1,000, you might have 1,400, I might have 1,200. You get the picture, right? There's a huge sort of a difference. You must have seen people with different kind of head sizes. ठीक है, मतलब देख सकते हो. But generally, we consider the human sort of species के लिए what is the number 1350. Tell me, okay, मतलब let's see, ये भी मैं कल quiz में पूछूंगा, ठीक है? What is the cranial capacity for the gibbons? 76 to 90 cc. Is this clear? In comparison to the humans, while we are kind of very similar to them, there's a huge difference so far as the cranial capacity is concerned. ठीक है? Gibbons जो है, they are completely arboreal, meaning they are tree living and they are not very good sort of like, they're not proficient on the ground. Unfortunately, आना पड़ रहा है because of deforestation. Amongst the different sort of locomotive strategies that they have, ठीक है, what is the one that will that they use? देख के बताओ, ठीक है? So option A, vertical clinging and leaping. Option B, brachiation. Option C, quadruped. Option A, B, C, D is going to be क्या है, bipedalism. Tell me which one is it. ठीक है? So I will leave that to you. Their arms are extremely long in comparison to the rest of the body. I think everybody said brachiation except for एक. See, vertical clinging, na, ये vertical clinging नहीं है. Vertical clinging is like there's a tree here and I have to cling on it vertically, then I'm clinging on it like this. That is vertical clinging. So VCL कौन सा था? Tell me the species that we said is VCL. And in today's session, I also said, and I also asked you, if possible, Google it. It looks kind of very different. Okay, I had basically said it. So VCL or vertical clinging and leaping was which one? This is definitely a brachiation. Okay, this is arm swinging. Remember brachiation, like there are different ways. For example, if it is like one branch like this, if I have to basically go, I can go like this, then I can go like this, then I can go like this, and I can go like this. Okay, you get the picture, right? Similarly, if I have to go between different sort of branches, I can go like this, I can go like this, I can go like this, I can do this. This is brachiation. Okay, you need to have long sort of arms, very strong sort of arms, and their arms are basically longer in relative to their body ka size. Okay, in comparison to any other sort of ape. Okay, although orangutans also come kind of close. Okay, but it's still very, very long. In fact, like, I'll show you how long it is. Okay, literally, it feels it is. It's so odd. आप देखोगे. Imagine that there is a forest canopy. ठीक है, मतलब and the gibbons can basically go from one particular leap to like this. मैं जो दिखा रहा हूँ ना, because I only have like 2 meters. ठीक, कितना होगा? This will be 2 meters. Okay, ये 2 meters ही होगा, ठीक है. But they can actually go 15 meters. If I go 15 meters, मतलब I have to go to like मतलब 2 घर बाद उस side. ठीक है, you understand, no? But that is like literally jumping across, like मतलब multiple buildings in one swing. Spider-Man. ठीक है. In fact, it is the gibbons who swing. I told you about this duet, right? So they produce this loud duet sort of songs with their partners, to defend their territory, and sometimes it is also including their मतलब उनका offspring. ठीक है. Now, if I ask you this particular question, are gibbons in our direct evolutionary line? Okay, the gibbons, say हम descendant है. We have descended from the gibbons. True or false? ठीक है, tell me, true or false? देखते हैं. How many trues and how many false? I'll repeat the question again. Are gibbons in our direct evolutionary line? Okay, are we descendants from gibbons? You must have seen that particular picture, right? Chimpanzee looking thing, and then, then little, and then eventually the final one is going to be the humans. Okay, you must have seen that. Okay. They belong to the family Hylobatidae. Okay, they belong to the family Hylobatidae. And that Hylobatidae essentially split from the great apes approximately 20 million years ago. So 25 million years is basically what? Your monkeys and your apes. Okay, 5 more million years ke baad, the lesser ape are splitting from the great apes. Is that clear? Okay, so that is that. Many of you are saying ki what was my question? How did I phrase it? I basically phrased it, are they a direct evolutionary line? So answer is no. So false is the right answer. Who is saying yes? Did anybody say yes? MKR, you said? Okay, somebody said, okay, true. Are they our direct sort of ancestors? They are not. For example, agar if I can go back here, okay, if I can go back to this particular picture, okay, so what do you see here? They're not our ancestors. Our ancestors are basically here, right? These guys are essentially, where is the lesser ape? They are a different sort of a line. Is that clear? They are a different sort of a line. So, you know, we are not descendants of them. ठीक है, वो भी present day हैं, हम भी present day हैं. ठीक है, they are not somebody you can take from here and then put them somewhere here to meet our thing, right? So they are present day. We have not descended from here. Whom have we descended? You know, they have to be on this line. Is this clear? Yes. Anybody who said true? Okay, is that clear? Okay, so 20 million years, basically, what we have seen. What are the other points? Did I miss out on anything? I think you understood now. So you can think of them as our distant cousins, but not our ancestors. Okay? What are the takeaways? Tomorrow ke liye is a small brain. If anybody remembers what is the cubic capacity, tell me. And definitely a tree specialist. Okay? And a distant sort of a branch, not our branch. Okay? They sort of split 20 million years ago. Is that kind of clear? Okay? Okay, good. The next group is going to be your orangutan. Okay, it is going to be your orangutan. Orangutans are these guys, right? Okay, orang, okay, orange. Okay, did we have it open? Let's check it once again. Anyways, I'll show this. Okay. Tell me, how do you do the caption? Okay, so I think the volume should be good enough that you should be able to hear it. Okay, it's full. Okay. We said duets, right? So listen to it. Now, when you noticed, right? So it has to walk like this. Why so? Because why do you have to hold your arms up like this, right? Understand this. If it allows it to sort of go like this, like how we do, okay, hamare liye it basically comes till half your femur, half your thigh, but for it, it is going to hit the ground. You get the picture, right? So it's the arms are so long, okay, that it is going to hit the ground. It's going to be dragging through the ground, and that is why it has to hold it up almost like this while walking. Is that clear? Concept understand कर रहे हो? ठीक है? That's why I said कि उनका, you know, the arms are very very long in comparison. ठीक है? And how do they move? They basically move like this. That means it's brachiation. Vertical clinging कैसा था? You're essentially holding on to this like this, and then you're just pushing off and then joining another sort of a tree, right? What was the example that we had seen? Shifaka lemur ka video I had basically shown, right? Literally, and pictures वगैरह I had shown it, right? You're like this, and then you're pushing off, and then you are again vertically clinging to another sort of a tree trunk. And I had even drawn this. Okay, I think somebody asked me this particular question. I think it's Kiran. I had even drawn those pictures कि यहाँ के trees ऐसे होते हैं, branches वगैरह नहीं होते हैं. So they have to basically go from one particular tree to another little farther kind of a tree, and they have to push off. Is that clear, Kiran? Can you confirm? Okay. Hopefully you understood what I meant about brachiation, what the lemurs are like, the sound effect that you could hear. It's a very distinct sort of a sound, right? And also, while many of you have messaged that, you know, it is, oh, the video is adorable, it actually looks like it, and this is the same thing that every batch actually says, but this is not good for them, right? Towards the end, they had essentially mentioned that, you know, this is the new sort of reality, you know, because infrastructure projects, roads. So we say that, you know, Northeast should be connected by train, which is great, but it also means that, you know, through those kind of infrastructure projects, we tend to see a lot more of this. Okay? Human overpopulation, primate extinction. Not only this one, but you understand this, right? Human populations are increasing everywhere. Many different sort of, many non-human primates, you know, they're actually disappearing, and they're disappearing so fast, and they are very few in number. Okay? And the problems are always interconnected. Okay? Humans are basically expanding into new areas. Okay? And the primate species are basically becoming endangered or becoming extinct. The lemurs of Madagascar, by the way, they are most threatened. Okay? So what you get to see here, You don't have too many of them. Mountain gorillas of Africa, why was Diane Fossey so into it? Only population of mountain gorillas jahan pe we have increased the population by a little bit. The red colobus monkeys of Africa, the lion-faced tamarins, lion tamarins of Brazil that I had shown you. It was on this particular end, if you remember that. These are species that are actually struggling to survive. So primatology mein conservation activity is happening. What is the main sort of reason here? Habitat destruction. Orangutans, this guy, highly sort of because of palm oil. So when we sort of like India imports a lot of palm oil from Malaysia, mostly from Malaysia, right? So wahan pe so many of these kind of evergreen forests are essentially taken away. Forests are being cleared, massive scale. If you basically fly through Malaysia, आप देख सकते हो agriculture के लिए, cattle ranching के लिए, timber and wood के लिए, all these kind of things. So with that, no forest essentially means no primates, right? They are extremely social. They're supposed to have a mate. They're not supposed to be here grooming the humans. So it looks kind of good, but it is almost, this is in the wild. Wild में ऐसा नहीं होना है. Zoo animal doing this is very different. You understand this, right? So there are, primatologists and anthropologists who are actually helping work on this. Is that kind of clear? So, so next time you're demanding and you're using your palm oil, remember that one more sort of like, huge forest is being cleared off in Malaysia. If you're buying some furniture, remember, where is that timber coming from? Where is your paper coming from? Where is your plywood basically coming from? It is basically coming because we are logging tropical forests, we are basically sort of like logging timber from these kind of forests. So destruction is driven by, us, the world markets. Not just the local villages. Local villages are basically just supplying. We should definitely care. Primatologists are basically saying, we have to protect because scientific importance is studying of primates is useful for us studying human evolution. It helps us learn how humans, are similar, how they are different from many of them. And even, overall medical importance वगैरह भी है. And we share a lot of genes, a lot of sort of diseases, right? 99% almost with chimpanzees. And for it's the closest cousins that we have. Is this clear? So we have to, in many of these kind of pockets, we have to ensure that we control human population. National parks चाहिए वहाँ पे, reserves चाहिए वहाँ पे, conservation kind of bodies चाहिए वहाँ पे. But both are difficult, and in many countries it is not possible. Northeast में आपने देखा है, how many of you actually knew that we have such species in Assam? Okay, what is that? Hulong gibbon के लिए there is a wildlife sanctuary. Hulong upper wildlife sanctuary. How many people really know? You understand this, right? Okay, so that is that. Bouncy walk on land, right? Are they looking for lice? It's grooming activity. I love the way they move. Right. Okay. It threatens their species. Right. Correct, Tisha. Next is going to be orangutan. Hopefully you understood that. Orangutans are basically, they're found in Borneo, they're found in Sumatra, Southeast Asia mein they are. And orangutans are the most arboreal of the great apes. Orangutan, gorilla, chimpanzee, and humans mein agar aap dekhoge. So who's the most sort of arboreal? It's always your orangutan. Generally wo high up in the canopy hi hote hain. Most of their time they spend on the trees. They have this orangish hair or reddish brown kind of fur. And that distinguishes them from the other sort of great apes. Males tend to be 75 kilos or something, and females tend to be kind of half of that, 37 kilos, and so on. Similarly, in terms of physical traits, agar aap dekhoge, so I'll just show you one more picture. Right, so this is that guy. Right, so what do you see here? Can you see that there is prehensile ability, but at the same time you can see there is prehensile ability here as well, right? So he has a thumb that he can use in order to sort of like grasp this, right? So I can climb, but I can use only these, right? I as in humans, right? But here agar aap dekhoge yahan pe he has this ability. Can you see this here? We don't have that. Okay, and that is that. But can you see this? Look at these kind of features here, and you will be able to see that there are long arms. Arms are longer. Not maybe the same proportion as the gibbon, but in comparison, he definitely has longer arms and shorter legs. If you compare my sleeve, your sleeves of your arms and your trouser sleeves, agar dekhoge, the trousers will be generally at least itne lambe honge. Because we have longer legs, but yahan pe different. They have a large, heavy relative body. And their movement is generally a little slower in comparison to the orangutans and the chimpanzees and the gorillas. Chimpanzees and gorillas, they can basically come so fast at you, like you will not even be ready. And some males also develop this cheek pads. Can you see this here? Okay, they're also called as phalanges, Flanges. And they also have this ability to make these long calls because they are kind of isolated. Okay, if you remember. ठीक है, so they are able to sort of attract the male या female or to tell their rivals कि यहाँ पे मत आओ. ठीक है, it is that. They tend to be also very physical traits अगर आप देखोगे 365 to 425 cc, meaning it is much larger than that of gibbons. ठीक है, that is also there, right? In terms of behavioral kind of traits, again you will see that orangutans tend to be highly intelligent. They're known to make these kind of tools. They use sticks to extract insects and seeds वगैरह वो use करने के लिए. Before they go to bed, they make those sleeping nests every single night depending upon where they want to rest. They use leaves, they use branches and make a bed every single night. ठीक है, so what does that tell you about their cognitive ability? ठीक है, in comparison to the kind of cranial capacity. By the way, cranial capacity is important. So what is the cranial capacity that I just mentioned? 365 to 425. At least remember 425. Remember one number. ठीक है, 90 remember for the previous one. This is 425 cc. ठीक है, remember 425 cc. ठीक है, so it has 425 is pretty big, so that means it has better sort of planning ability. It has better sort of problem solving ability. I don't enjoy sleeping on this, so let me try to make a bed. ठीक है, and things like this. You understand? ना? So मतलब a lot of traits that are actually shared with humans as well. ठीक है, सो इनका जीनस जो है इट इज पोंगो. ठीक है, इट यूज्ड टू बी एंटायर सॉर्ट ऑफ साउथ ईस्ट एशिया एंड योर साउथ चाइना, सदर्न पार्ट ऑफ चाइना एटलीस्ट ड्यूरिंग एंशिएंट सॉर्ट ऑफ पीरियड्स. बट टुडे अगर आप देखोगे बोर्नियो में है, बोर्नियो इज वन, सो दे आर एक्चुअली कॉल्ड एज अ बोर्नियो ओरंगुटैन, बोर्नियन ओरंगुटैन. That's one particular pongo ka family. Then there is Sumatra. Okay, that is another one. Then you have Tapanuli orangutan. Okay, so in fact Tapanuli orangutan is something that was discovered only in 2017. Okay, so things like this. And these guys are also basically called as the old men of the forest because they have these reddish kind of beards. And agar aap dekhoge, they seem very thoughtful in expression. Okay, wise old man. है कि नहीं? And orangutan line basically diverged from other sort of great apes जो है. ठीक है, orangutan के बाद then it's your gorilla, chimpanzee and the present day humans. And this is 15 to 19 million years ago. So पहला, what did I say? Monkeys to apes, monkeys to lesser ape वाला 25 million years. ठीक है, उसके बाद what did we say? The lesser ape basically diverged 20 million years and these guys are 15 to 19 million years. ठीक है, so they are they are closer relative to us than gibbons, ठीक है, but they are farther relative to us in comparison to gorillas or chimpanzees. Is that clear? Arthamainda? Does cranial capacity directly correlate with intelligence? No, not directly. Who is this guy? This is chimpanzee. I just told you this right at the beginning of this class. Pan troglodyte. ठीक है, मतलब school वगैरह में, in case you want to make fun of somebody, you might end up calling pan troglodyte, and many of them don't even know what it is. ठीक है, but this is your pan troglodyte. Who's this guy? This is your pan troglodyte. paniscus भी है, which is your bonobo. ठीक है, chimps ठीक है, but chimps I also want to say कि chimps and bonobos have split in more recent times, 1 million to 2 million years, they have split into chimps and bonobos. ठीक है, and that's an interesting story, but for another day. Is that clear? What is the life expectancy of orangutans? Again, it depends on if it's in the wild or whether it is in captivity. Wild may, it is 30 to 40 years, but if it is in captivity, they have been known to be like 50 years, 55 years also. Somewhere in that range, I don't remember the exact sort of numbers. ठीक है? This is your chimpanzee, and these are the kind of features that you see here. Okay, so this is your chimpanzee. Chimpanzee is, actually we should do gorilla because if we are coming in that order, but okay, I have chimpanzee here. Chimpanzee is your closest living relative of the humans, chimps and bonobos. Agar height up dekhoge, if this guy basically stands up, he will be somewhere approximately 5 feet. मान लो कि somewhere around 5 feet. Weight कितना होगा? 125 kilograms. That's a lot of weight. ठीक है, a 5 feet human will not be 125 kilograms unless they are kind of मतलब बॉडी बिल्डिंग वगैरह कर रहे हैं या मतलब ओबीस हैं, बट एवरेज ऐसा है. क्रेनियल कैपेसिटी अगर आप देखोगे, इट टेंड्स टू बी 400 to 500 cc. ठीक है, 400 to 500 cc. रिमेंबर द नंबर 500. सो व्हाट डू यू रिमेंबर? 76 to 90, 90 याद रख लो. ठीक है, एंड 425 याद रख लो, 500 याद रख लो. ठीक है, देन these guys, David Greybeard, if you remember, right? So behavior intelligence अगर आप देखोगे, ठीक है, they use tools. ठीक है, वो स्टिक्स वगैरह यूज करते हैं टू फिश फॉर टर्माइट्स. ठीक है, दे यूज लीव्स एज स्पंजेस एंड देन मतलब ड्रिंक फ्रॉम इट. ठीक है, they can be taught sign language, they have been taught sign language, ठीक है, when they look at themselves in the mirror or in like photos, they recognize कि it is me and this is so and so, ठीक है, this is Fifi, this is Flo, this is David, you get the picture, right? So मतलब they also have that self awareness वाला element भी है, ठीक है, एंड मतलब ग्रुप लिविंग वगैरह करते हैं, दे हैव प्रॉपर सॉर्ट ऑफ प्लान हंट्स वी हैड सीन राइट इन द वीडियो, ठीक है, मतलब एग्रेसिव एंड एफिलिएटिव बिहेवियर वाला पॉइंट में हमने देखा होगा, ठीक है, स्पेशली व्हेन दे आर गोइंग फॉर दो स्मॉल मंकीज, दे मतलब पूरा प्लान सॉर्ट ऑफ कोऑर्डिनेटेड सॉर्ट ऑफ हंटिंग ये करते हैं. When I basically said about that American Sign Language, if anybody remembers that chimp that was taught American Sign Language, does anybody remember? I'll give you 10 seconds. After this, I'll tell you. Very famous chimp named Dash, learned actually more than 350 American Sign Language symbols. Okay, or signs would be the right sort of term. So what does this tell them about, language evolution? Coco. So Kishan said Coco. Rajanya said, RC basically said Coco. Coco the gorilla. Okay, Coco the gorilla could understand 2,000 words and was able to sort of like sign, and I don't know, not to be disrespectful here, but I don't know how to sign it, but 1,000 plus signs. Okay, this is Washoe. Washoe is the chimp that was taught 350 American Sign Language signs. Okay, and that is that. Now within this, you can also see that there are two different groups within this particular pan family, and Pella Wala is going to be your pan troglodyte, which is your chimpanzee, and then you have pan paniscus, which is a bonobo. Okay, now again, remember this. I'll just tell you very simple. There is this Congo River. Okay, Congo River is basically ऐसे एक river है, and उसके ऊपर and नीचे there is populations. Okay, and over a period of time, in the last 1 to 2 years, I'll just tell you this in just a second. This is your Congo River. Okay, this is your Congo River. There was this pan family, that got split into two of these. Okay, because the river was not there, but 1 to 2 million years ago, this river is forming. Okay, and this became, so pan family got divided into two different sort of groups, north and south. This is a very interesting sort of story. Okay, so you found north mein there is one, and in the south mein you have this. Okay, and I'll just tell you, okay, what just happened. Okay, so again, very interesting. If you go back 1 to 2 million years ago, there was no river. 3 million years ago, there was no river. There was no chimpanzee, there was no bonobo. There was basically like, one ancestral species of pan, okay, living in that central African sort of region. Okay, and then something important happened, right? The Congo River, it started forming like a stream, then it became a little bigger, then it became wider, it became deeper, and eventually the Congo River essentially happened. And that river actually split that ancestral ape population of that Panwala population into two different sort of groups, one on this side and one on this side. Okay, one on the north side of the river and the other on the south side of the river. Okay, at first, when it is basically splitting, it is the same sort of species. वो मतलब pan ही है. But eventually, over a period of time, what you start noticing is that there is geographical isolation. ठीक है, now there is no interbreeding. They don't swim and go to the other side. So मतलब यहाँ पे gene flow intermixture वो नहीं चल रहा है. ठीक है. Now what happens is that your environment one, ठीक है, again remember it and study it like this. ठीक है. This is again not required for your exam, but I'm just telling you how to remember things and how to logically sort of understand why there's differences. Okay, so what you see here is that there is environment 1 and environment 2, north of the river, south of the river. Okay, north of the river, what you end up seeing is that there is few ground-based plants. Okay, less number of plants. Okay, there is more competition for those plants. यहाँ पे what you also see is that you have gorillas also here. Okay, and यहाँ पे you don't have gorillas, no gorillas. Now you understand this, right? So literally you have more competition. ठीक है, you have more ground based plants के लिए तो मतलब gorilla से आपको compete करना पड़ेगा, or you basically go higher up in the trees and get some fruits, and fruits कितने ही होंगे, dispersed होंगे. South of the river, what you see is that you have a lot more sort of like ground vegetation. ठीक है, and there are no gorillas here. ठीक है, two different sort of environments. ठीक है, अगर आप जाके देखोगे, what you will notice is that the environment to you, it looks the same, but environment 1 and environment 2 is very very different, because ground vegetation जो भी है, ठीक है, कम है, but you have to compete with the gorillas. Here you have it, but you don't have to compete with the gorillas. ठीक है, so what is happening? More competition, less competition. then what happens? ठीक है, so natural selection basically works here. ठीक है, evolution is happening north of the river, the food is limited, the fruit is rare, and it is higher up. ठीक है, that means if you have to get that fruit, you've got to be more aggressive. ठीक है, overall, if you see, you have to defend your fruit tree, you have to dominate your rivals, you have to fight with your rivals. Only then you get more sort of food, and then you will be able to survive. ठीक है, so the aggressive ones end up surviving. ठीक है, the aggressive ones are able to sort of live for longer. The aggressive ones are able to live long enough to reach adulthood and then reproduce. So thousands and thousands of generations, millions of years, right? So 1 to 2 million years, mein thousands of generations, tens of thousands of generations, lakhs of generations, right? What happens is that the lineage eventually became chimpanzees. Pan troglodyte became that aggressive ones. South of the river अगर आप देखोगे, ठीक है, मतलब इनको कुछ competition है ही नहीं. Food is abundant on the ground, ठीक है, no competition sort of a pressure, right? मतलब क्यों unnecessary sort of conflict, right? मतलब there's no reason, ठीक है. The main sort of a conflict is because you're guarding food or you're basically trying to get food, ठीक है. There's no injury, nothing. ठीक है, so they tend to be a lot more sort of social, they tend to be a lot more sort of cooperative, and ऊपर में north में you basically see that they tend to have a lot more sort of like aggression, right? So this guy more aggressive, pan troglodyte, and this one more social and more sort of cooperative, ठीक है, and that is your pan paniscus. ठीक है, so यहाँ पे they are friendly, ठीक है, they're not very aggressive, यहाँ पे they are मतलब mean machines. You get the picture, right? Thousands and thousands of generations में you will see that there is a alpha, there's a male dominance, intergroup violence बहुत होते हैं, territorial aggression बहुत होते हैं, and they tend to also be more muscular built. He's not showing it, ठीक है, he's just being humble. ठीक है, these are your chimpanzees. South of the Congo में generally it is female led, ठीक है, and less aggression. ठीक है, and and slimmer kind of body. In fact, अगर conflict है, they generally tend to resolve it using sexual behavior. It's very interesting sort of a behavior in this thing. This is basically bonobos. यहाँ पे let's fight it out. Okay, whoever lives, ठीक है, wins that argument. यहाँ पे ऐसा नहीं है. They even basically settle with sex. You get the picture, right? So literally you have two different sort of species that have taken place because of this geography. The geography is basically the formation of this Congo River separating two of these. Okay, more competition for food, more aggressive, more built, and so on, and more peaceful, and even matriarchal. That is your bonobo. Please understand it like this. ठीक है, of course, ये सब आपको लिखने के लिए आप you will not be able to find time space to write all of these kind of things, but you will learn the primates a lot better. You understand now? There is a logic behind why one is more aggressive and why one is more sort of peaceful. Is this clear? Understood? Please give me confirmation. Washo, PC said Washo, that's excellent. Coco is basically the gorilla. Okay? There are a few different types of gorilla. Sorry, of Panca family, and you can see these here, right? So you see some of them on this particular end. Okay, you see, and most of the others West Africa and like Central Africa. Okay, Western and Central. I should say Eastern, it's Central. Is this clear? Chimpanzees and humans basically diverged how far back? Okay, this is another quiz for you. How many dash million years ago there is a split between the human lineage and the chimpanzee lineage? Okay, and the last guy is going to be the gorilla, and gorilla is essentially this guy, the largest, the strongest. Okay, adult males tend to be 5.5 feet and tall, but if they're standing up, some of them can be 6 or a little more than 6. They can be 200 kgs or even more than 200 kgs, but remember, 5.5 feet tall. Okay, they tend to be 200 kgs, on average. Okay, and remember it as 550 cc. Okay, 450 to 550 cc, 450 to 550 cc. Is that clear? Remember, at least 550 cc on average. Is that clear? Physical and social sort of traits, अगर आप उनका देखोगे, they tend to be a lot less on the branches. Okay, they tend to be a lot less on the trees because पहले तो मतलब they are much bigger, 200 something kilos. Very few branches, will be able to handle that. How do they essentially move around? They basically are quadruped. That means they walk on, all four sort of limbs using their knuckles. Okay, and they're covered in this, beautiful black hair or black fur, except on their face and on the chest. Okay, and face वगैरह अगर आप देखोगे, it tends to be a lot flatter. Okay, and more the nasal bridge is a lot more sort of obvious. Okay, and despite their huge size, what did Dian Fossey basically tell us? Okay, they are gentle giants. In fact, they are so gentle कि मतलब वो gentle vegetarians भी हैं. You understand this, right? They are gentle vegetarians. By the way, this also is another question for tomorrow's quiz possibly. Okay, gentle vegetarians कौन है, and who tend to be more sort of non-vegetarian? It is a tarsiers. Tarsiers almost complete sort of diet उनका जो होता है, it is like insects. ठीक है, so they tend to be non-vegetarian. So tarsiers on one end, and this mean-looking silverback, okay, is the gorilla. If you see this here. Okay, so this is the gorilla, the silverback. In fact, यहाँ पे अगर आप देखोगे, you can see a lot more sort of grayish hair. ठीक है, and that is that. Coco the gorilla, taught by primatologist to communicate 1,000 plus, and not 200 plus words, 2,000 plus words. Okay, is that kind of clear? So many gorillas, the male gorillas especially, they are called as silverbacks because of that silver or grayish kind of hair on the backs. Okay, not the upper back, the mid and the lower sort of back, as they sort of age or as they sort of mature. Okay, and they are very protective gorillas. Digit wanted to sort of protect his family, right? And they have a lot of strength. Okay, they are very intelligent as well, but they are gentle. Okay, here also if you see, they are generally divided into two different sort of populations. एक है eastern gorilla and the other is your western gorilla. Gorilla Berengay and gorilla. Okay, so that is that. In fact, you can see this. Okay, gorilla and gorilla Berengay. Okay, so मतलब generally eastern subspecies है, or species है, and then you have the western sort of gorilla, which is gorilla. DNA wise similarity depending upon what you check. Okay, so it is 95 to 99%, making them the next closest to us in after your chimpanzee and bonobo. Is this clear? Okay, so they are closer to us than orangutan was. Okay, and they are farther relative to us in comparison to your chimpanzee. Is that clear? I think I've covered it. Okay, just a quick summary. Okay, so this is how they actually kind of look. But do they sit like this? No. Okay, they don't sit like this. But now you might think like, how are they in comparison to, let's say, modern sort of humans? Okay, and you can see that here. It is a modern human who's basically comparing his hand to the hand of a gorilla. Okay, who's got to be bigger? Definitely. And you can also see that you cannot see my bones, but of course, you can see that this thing is a lot more sort of like sturdy and robust in comparison to me, right? If like one swat would basically, make me go flying. Okay, and that's exactly what you would see here. Okay, but you're getting the picture, right? Yeah. BSK says that modern human looks familiar. Okay. So overall summary आप देख सकते हो, ठीक है? Humans में approximately it is नहीं, this is 1350. ठीक है? This is the lowest is around 1000. ठीक है? On average it is 1000, 1350. ठीक है? Anatomically. ठीक है? Chimpanzee, it is going to be approximately, what is the number that we decided to remember? 500. ठीक है? What was it for gorilla? It's gorilla and orangutan. ठीक है? So gorilla is going to be how many? It is going to be 550. Orangutan is going to be what? 425. If I have the gibbon here, what do I say? 76 to 90. Remember that. Forehead अगर आप देखोगे, ठीक है, see, if you see this here, by the way, which one is, can you see the two hand-drawn sort of pictures here of the skulls? Can you tell me which one is human and which one is the other ape? ठीक है, if I can move out of here. The two sort of hand-drawn diagrams that I've drawn here, can you please tell me which one is this guy ka and which one is this guy ka? Tell me that. The right is a human. If you see this human, who is this human, sir? Okay, so if you see this here, right? So if you look at my face, can you see that there is a very clear and more developed sort of a forehead? ठीक है, so from this nasal bridge, you can definitely see that there is a forehead. यहाँ पे अगर आप देखोगे, ठीक है, right from the eye socket, can you even tell me from where to where is the forehead? ठीक है, it's not that well developed. ठीक है, it's not as well like a bar वाला forehead जो आप देख सकते हो यहाँ पे. ठीक है, literally I have like a phone का casing out here. Correct? ठीक है, it's well developed, but यहाँ पे it is slightly developed, right? मतलब barely there, right? You cannot tell me where it starts and where it kind of ends, right? Chimpanzee, gorilla, orangutan, वहाँ पे it will not be like this. ठीक है, next is going to be chin. In terms of chin, can you see, right? So this human basically has a very distinct sort of a chin. Can you see this? There's a distinct sort of a chin. But from here, if you see, the lower jaw comes here and literally it curves back. Is that kind of clear? ठीक है, it essentially curves back. Okay, if you go back to this particular picture, you can see, I guess, the beard is kind of blocking it, but you can definitely see that, it is coming from the lower lip, it is coming out. Okay, you can see that there is a very distinct one, but here agar aap dekhoge, it's not obvious here, but you can definitely see from here, it just like curves back. Is that kind of clear? Okay, that is a chin. Okay, canine teeth twice, right? So that human that you had seen, that human basically does not have very long sort of canines. ठीक है, मतलब it is not going to scare anybody. ठीक है, you get the picture, right? It can do a job of maybe opening a Lay's का packet or to tear food. मतलब वही तो होता है. ठीक है, so canine teeth is relatively equal in length to the rest of the teeth. ठीक है, touch, all of you basically go through. आज का you don't have to touch so much, but next class के लिए you have to. But take a look at this. ठीक है, or use your tongue and then try to see. Can you see that any one is longer than the other? But वहाँ पे अगर आप देखोगे, it tends to be much longer. इतना one will be this much and one will be this much. It will be a big sort of a difference. ठीक है, so canine teeth is smaller for the humans. Okay, or in line with the others. For the others, it is going to be large, very large, large. ठीक है, this guy is going to be the very large. Okay, so that is that. Is that clear? And foramen magnum. Foramen magnum is something like this. Okay, so let's say that this is my skull, and this is the spinal sort of a column. Okay, so literally at the bottom here, what you will notice is that there is going to be that socket. Okay, that is going to be that opening, the skull ka opening, so that the vertebral column and the spinal cord is going to be able to reach into the skull. And why does it have to basically connect? Because of course it is a brain. Okay, brain is the center. Okay, wahan se you have to sort of connect, and it will be something like this. But let's say you are quadruped, right? Okay, the gorilla is not going to be sitting like this. Okay, the gorilla is not going to be sitting like in that kind of picture, right? The gorilla is going to be, if this is the skull, the gorilla ka back is going to be like this. Okay, so agar aap dekhoge, the foramen magnum, the skull ka opening, niche nahi hoga. It is niche for me and you because we are standing up. ठीक है, but they tend to be like this. ऐसे ही होंगे ना. So it is going to connect to the back of their head. ठीक है, the foramen magnum का opening कहाँ पे होगा? It is going to be at the back of the skull. Where is it going to be for gorillas? Back of the skull. Where is it going to be for the orangutans? It is going to be at the back of the skull. Is this clear? So why does the foramen magnum का position matter? It is very important in evolution because we can understand कि posture कैसे हुआ होगा. Till when, since when are we basically having this centrally placed or, bottom kind of placed, kind of foramen magnum? Okay, we understand because since when, that is a question that is answering ki, since when are we bipedal, since when are we walking upright? Okay, because apes, all the present day apes who are doing their brachiation or they're essentially doing their knuckle walking, it is going to be at the back of the skull. Aise hoga. Is this clear? Gotaita? Okay, but in that comparison picture of me and the gorilla, what did you notice? There are a lot of similarities as well. What are the similarities? Pehla wala is going to be opposability of thumb. Okay, but in the gorillas, the orangutans, the chimpanzee, the bonobo, the gibbon, okay, gibbon, right? All मतलब जो भी हमने देखे till now, ठीक है? We have the ability to have this opposability. ठीक है? Both humans and apes have this ability that they can grasp and manipulate these kind of objects. They can use tools because they can hold it. In fact, we have one extra grip, which is like we can hold like a pencil and then use. Very, delicate. हम use कर सकते हैं, ठीक है? But they are different from us because they have opposability also in their bottom digits. ठीक है? Their lower leg में. ठीक है? Do we have the ability to do that? No. ठीक है? And that is why this is Sheetal Devi. ठीक है? मतलब when she is able to do it like this, most humans cannot do it like this. That's why she is great. ठीक है? She's a para world champion. ठीक है? And she's able to do it using her this thing. Like we cannot do this. ठीक है? मतलब अगर आप कुछ try करोगे, ठीक है? You can write with your hands like this. You cannot write with your feet like this. Very few. ठीक है? And that too with a lot of training. ठीक है, and that is that. All of us basically have some more sort of similarity, which is that we have stereoscopic vision. ठीक है, stereoscopic essentially means कि हम forward facing eyes हमारे हैं, ठीक है, and we are able to see using both the eyes, and there is that overlap, and that gives you a very good 3D sort of perspective. It gives you depth perception, ठीक है, and because it's very very important to be able to climb and jump from one branch to another. ठीक है, we tend to be omnivorous, right? Most of us are, most of us basically eat a mix of plant and animal sort of foods because we adapt to various sort of environments. Although the gorilla tends to be mostly vegetarian. ठीक है, mostly plant, mostly bamboos. ठीक है, and that is that. All of us are also similar in one particular way, that is absence of a tail. ठीक है, all of you मतलब देखो, ठीक है, do you have a tail? ठीक है, if you have a tail, ठीक है, मतलब you are not part of this ape का family. ठीक है, but who will have a tail? Our closer relatives will have a tail. That is your monkeys. You get the picture, right? So no tail, okay, is a trait of Hominoidea wala family. Similarly, we have similar blood groups as well. Apes also have a different form of ABO blood group system wala blood. Okay, humans may we basically have A, B, O, and AB. Chimpanzee may they have A and O. Okay, gorilla may they have only B. Okay, orangutans may you have A, B, AB, and O. Well, very similar to humans. Okay, and gibbons may they have A and B, and rarely they also have O. You get the picture, right? So humans and orangutans basically are the ones who share the full ABO range, and the others basically share parts of it. Is this clear? Similarly, the presence of the appendix, of course, both humans and apes basically retain this vestigial sort of digestive sort of organ. ठीक है, मतलब, it is like वो herbivore जब हम थे, in order to be able to sort of like grind up, those tough fibrous sort of foods उसके लिए था, but आजकल हमारे humans के लिए it is not of much use. Even if you have appendicitis, they will remove that, and it is not going to make much of a difference. I have it removed. Is that clear? Similarly, in terms of uterus and placental sort of structure, the reproductive system is also kind of similar, and very very similar with regard to this. So overall, अगर आप देखोगे, we have a lot of differences for sure, and differences कल देखेंगे, but you also have to see that humans and apes, they belong to the same biological family tree. Very very a lot of similarities. Even see gibbons and orangs, अगर आप देखोगे, they were the ones who basically branched off. पहले gibbons branched off, okay. And then you have the orangutans and branched off, then the gorilla branched off, then the chimpanzee and the bonobo sort of branched off, and so on and so forth. You understand, right? Chimpanzee and bonobo, the closest sort of relatives to us. So you're able to, what have you learned today is that you're able to sort of learn these kind of comparisons to understand not only your anatomy, because you know your anatomy, आप touch करके देख सकते हो. How is my clavicle sort of bone? What is my shoulder mobility? देख सकते हो, right? Similarly, you can check the kind of similarity in behavior, differences in behavior, similarity in cognitive abilities, dissimilarity in cognitive abilities. You can understand the evolution. ठीक है, what made, like, what kind of similar things we have, what kind of different things we have, right? By studying all of these things, we get a lot of benefit. ठीक है, we are studying your entire sort of evolutionary past. Is this clear? And that is what you understand from you. And the key word here is that it is about understanding. Okay, I want you to actually understand. I don't want you to think that I'm going to study this. In fact, like I've heard that people a class में कुछ ये पढ़ लो बोल के cover कर लेते हैं, and then after that you don't have anything. And in QEP Plus में you will not be able to handle these kind of questions that I'm giving you. And QEP Plus is not the place for me to teach, from this scratch करके. ठीक है? I'll have so many questions to discuss there. It becomes very very difficult. And that is that. So again, हमारे course में the first step was what? Conceptual understanding. Second में handouts reading while you're writing your assignment. Short notes. Then next program mein we'll do test series jahan pe you'll be able to be as comfortable with all of these things as I am, but I'll try to make it as comfortable as possible. By the way, these are the guys. ठीक है? The different kind of things. Anyways, we'll see this in tomorrow. One more video. Which one?
Also very long and curved, which helps this baby.
This is tarsiers, by the way.
This adorable creature is a tarsier, and as you can see, its eyes are absolutely massive. In fact, they have the largest eyes of any mammal, relative to their body size. They are the only truly carnivorous
Look at the fingers
in the world, and despite their small size, tarsiers are actually very proficient hunters.
Non-vegetarian, I told you, right? Mostly they are having insects.
Larger than themselves. They are built with some pretty impressive hunting skills and features. For example, their gigantic eyes help them see better in low light conditions, which is useful for hunting at night. Apart from that, their long legs and feet help them jump really high, and their fingers are also very long and curved, which helps them to grip onto tree branches securely.
You can see some nails as well.
Tarsiers great hunters, but also very good at escaping from predators. They are actually known to be one of the fastest and most.
Can you see how much they can jump?
In the animal kingdom.
Vertical, clinging, and leaping.
Adorable creature is a tarsier, and as
lemurs, lorises, tarsiers, right?
Surprises. Lorises are diminutive nocturnal primates found in Southeast Asia, India, and certain regions of Africa. They traverse the arboreal realm with a deliberate, measured gait, earning one species the moniker slow loris. Their large ocular aperture facilitates nocturnal vision, while their robust hands enable them to grasp branches secure during locomotion or hunting endeavors. Lorises exhibit omnivorous tendencies, consuming insects, fruits, and even tree sap. Some species have been observed predating upon prey of substantial size, such as geckos. Lorises give birth to a single offspring at a time.
But this picture is good. I think this will having some issues, but now you get it right. So this is how they look. So next time you see lemur, loris, and loris also you have different types. There's slender loris, there is slow loris. Okay, and loris also tends to poison type के भी होते हैं, ठीक है? And then you have tarsiers. Tarsiers are the ones that you saw, those massive sort of eyes. The eyes are bigger than their brains, and it's like literally if we have to have that kind of eyes, that's like 2 watermelons for eyes. Somebody basically mentioned that tarsiers look like Dobby in Harry Potter. I don't remember Harry Potter. I had not read Harry. I'm a Lord of the Rings guy, so मुझे नहीं पता, but if you guys remember, because I've heard of Dobby multiple times. देख लो, ठीक है, in case you want to identify. This is basically loris, ठीक है, and the rest gibbon, gorilla, orangutan, gibbon, orangutan, gorilla, chimpanzee, bonobo, and humans, though we have basically covered, so you know. So you are in the human picture comparing finger size. I'm comparing everything, okay? The skeletal sort of structures and things like this, okay? And because I'm doing a session. I'm basically teaching, okay? So I'm basically sort of दिखा रहा हूँ कि compare करो बोल के exactly what I'm doing with you guys, okay? But unfortunately we are not on a field trip. I cannot take you to different sort of places. I have to do it here, but at least I can use all of those kind of things in order to be able to show you and make you see the difference. And I will have this because, again, as I tell you, right, my entire focus and foundation is to ensure that you understand these kind of things rather than just study them. I've had people show me, I have these kind of notes from somewhere I've copied and made it, and itna sara hai, I don't know how to study it, I don't know how to cram it, I don't understand it. ठीक है, तो कर क्यों रहे हो ऐसे? ठीक है, so it's more important that you understand these kind of things, because last minute, at the end of the day, if you're able to show कि you understand, okay, and with less number of lines, less number of words, if you just show them कि you understand, ठीक है, you're going to score a lot more than somebody who has crammed and dumped a lot. ठीक है, वो people actually fall into that loop कि बहुत cram करेंगे, बहुत लिखेंगे, and marks नहीं आएंगे, then they basically go and cram even further. You understand, na? And somebody who is basically like more conceptual clarity, they're able to show it. A very good example is going to be this example, right? If you basically show this here, if I can come back here, if you can show this, okay, even if you don't have this, okay, if you are able to show this, hominin kya hai, hominid kya hai, hominoid kya hai, in comparison to somebody who has written this, hominin, blah, 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 which it's like, they don't understand, they're not able to sort of explain what they have understood. Okay, the 20 different features, yeah, and hominid ke liye, ye. It's basically like a nested sort of a loop, right? We studied that. Ki every inclusive sort of group ke liye, you basically split into two different. So understanding becomes most important. It's a lot easier to be able to differentiate yourself by showing that you understand. Okay. So what kind of teeth does tarsiers have? Tarsier is basically the one that I had shown you a little earlier. Okay, again, they have a distinctive pattern. ठीक है, so upper jaw में ना उनका teeth 2133 है, and lower jaw में they have 1133. ठीक है, so 2133 and 1133. Anyway, you don't have to remember this. So upper jaw में क्या है? They have 2 incisors, 1 canine, ठीक है, 3 premolars and 3 molars. And lower jaw में what do they have? 1 incisor only. ठीक है, so 1, 1, 3, 3. So totally अगर आप count करके देखोगे कितना आएगा? You should have 34 teeth. Okay, again, so it is basically like some sort of evolution that has helped them in insect eating kind of works. Okay, you need a little bit of sharpie and pointed and piercing, cutting and grinding, that kind of a thing. One more thing, if you remember that we said in Strepsirhini, we have this tooth comb, right? So basically I had drawn that and shown you that it basically looks like a comb. So lemurs and lorises have this, right? Strepsirhini, you have lemurs and loris. We said tarsiers are actually part of your Haplorhini. In fact, Strepsirhini, you have tooth comb that is present, and tarsiers basically don't have that tooth ka comb. I don't know if I made that point earlier, but again, so another way to basically tell you, so where do the tarsiers belong? Is in Strepsirhini or in your Haplorhini? This is one of the reasons why they're also placed in the Haplorhini, not in Strepsirhini. समझ रहे हो? we'll love to meet a teacher like you after selection. Yes, definitely. We'll work a lot closer during your QEP plus phase as well. Okay, good. So you are ex-Forum IAS teacher. My friend says that. Yes, I was. Okay. I went to fill in for somebody, and then then they made me add one more batch and add one more batch. And that time I used to shift from here to there, 3 days here, 4 days there, every week flying. Literally, I had gone year and a half, maybe मतलब quite some time जहाँ पे like I did not take a single day off. ठीक है, night को यहाँ से मुझे 11:30, 12 this thing, reach there 3 o'clock, reach my place 4 o'clock, morning again class, again then do 4 days, and then again come back and do this thing. And then I did that for a good chunk of time, and then eventually though I came back. Yes, Sir, Tarsier and Lorises are confusing me a bit. ठीक है, मतलब देख लो कि how they are different. Slender loris, slow loris देखो, so you will understand कि how they are kind of different. ठीक है, Tarsiers के लिए it's mainly the eyes that you will be able to tell the difference. Yes, sir, tooth comb was what I was thinking about. ठीक है, yes, lemurs and lorises, not Tarsier. ठीक है, very good. Did you find anything that you have to cram? Hopefully not. Okay, that is my only thing that I want from you. ठीक है, and especially go through and watch that classification once again and become as comfortable as I am in going through that classification wala chart. It becomes so much easier if you just watch it 2-3 बार watch करो until you are able to sort of say it along with me. Sir, I emailed you about a doubt in tribal anthro handout. Okay, I'll take a look and then come back to you. I've not been able to go through those. I couldn't tell how time went by. I can study primates few more hours. Okay, good. But there is somebody else who has to teach here. Otherwise, I would have done this. Okay, learned a lot. Good. PC says the class was fun, engaging, learned a lot. Good. All clear, sir. Good. It's a great class, sir. In the first day when you showed primates timeline, it was hard to remember. Now the classification pictorial views. I'll keep reinforcing the same sort of points again and again until a point जहाँ पे you will be able to understand and talk about this thing the way I do. And इससे ज़्यादा आपको नहीं करना है. Please don't add new things. ठीक है? Don't add things. This is more than sufficient. You see something hominin, hominid, hominoid, just an example, and then you suddenly go and मतलब ये, and then you take all of those. No, नहीं. Everything can be answered from here itself. ठीक है? The more sort of clutter you add, the more clutter becomes very difficult to sort of like study them also. इससे ज़्यादा आपको नहीं चाहिए. This is basically syllabus covered in a very मतलब very comprehensive sort of a manner. Every part of your syllabus is going to be covered in such a comprehensive sort of manner कि मतलब ये use करके whatever they ask you, you should be able to sort of answer those kind of questions. ठीक है, वही पूछ रहे, ठीक है, you understand ना? Easy, moderate, some bounces वगैरह होंगे, but they're not expecting you to go and study those bounces. They're expecting whether you understand the different parts of your syllabus and use the syllabus के concepts to be able to craft some answers, link it to the question that they have asked. Okay, so understand that and just keep it to just this. Okay, let others go ahead. Your competitors basically go and add so many things and work, and struggle and things like this. You should not be doing that because I'm saying this again. Especially that hominins, etc. part. Remember, part excellent. Okay, great. BK, the classification chart helped a lot in understanding. Good. Which the first one, na? Okay, ये भी आपको understand करना है, right? Whenever you think primates, always remember like this. Okay, I'll ask you in the next week a question. So I remember pan troglodytes. Okay. Was good. So how should I reduce my content writing? I had an issue regarding this. Always remember, okay, you understand this, कि what are the things that I need, right? And then उसको अपने शब्दों में try to explain this. Okay, and you will not be able to put every single point. The second you think that I'm going to put in everything that I know and then I'm going to write, whether it is 10, 15, 20, doesn't necessarily matter. Everything जो मुझे पता है मैं लिखूंगा या लिखूंगी, okay, immediately मतलब you are you're not doing justice. ठीक है, we are all fault of this. ठीक है, मतलब we always feel कि नहीं हमें दिखाना है कि हमें कितना पता है. ऐसा नहीं है, right? Okay, so in case you have a particular project, you should be able to deliver that project in whatever kind of budget that is given. ठीक है, छोटे में छोटा इवेंट, okay, बड़े बजट में बड़ा इवेंट, मीडियम बजट में मीडियम इवेंट. ठीक है, that is your ability as an administrator, that is your ability as an exam taker. ठीक है, it happens only with practice. पहला assignment, पहला 3-4 assignments, please don't expect all of this thing to come. ठीक है, उतना easy होता तो मतलब why answer writing? ठीक है, answer writing volume builds this. Over, you will see evolution here in your answers as well and comfort there. AD says, yes, so interest is rising day by day. There is no way of rote learning in your class. Concepts are in our mind. Good, Ritu, I'm happy. So my YouTube फीड इज फुल ऑफ गोरिल्लास, orangutans एंड baboons। नहीं मत देखो, ठीक है, जो मैं यहाँ पे दिखाता हूँ यही आपको देखना है। इवन वीडियोस एंड अदर थिंग्स आप अवॉइड कर लो, ठीक है। जस्ट डू व्हाट इज हियर, बट इसको बार बार आप कर सकते हो अगर आपको चाहिए, ठीक है। एंड दैट विल मेक यू वेरी वेरी कंफर्टेबल। एवरी सिंगल टॉपिक, स्पेशली वो होमिनिड्स वगैरह मैं जैसे पढ़ाऊंगा ना, यू विल नॉट नीड टू मतलब रिवाइज ज़्यादा करना ही नहीं पड़ेगा, ठीक है। जस्ट लाइक व्हाट आई हैव शोन यू टुडेज क्लास, ठीक है। ओके okay, that's it for today. I will see you guys in the next session. Take care and bye bye.